Chapter 383. You don't have to explain. I have already informed your director. You will be punished, and the prosecutor will be involved in the investigation. Li Fujian's words were understated, but Quan Zhengyu's heart fell straight into the nine-nether abyss. He looked at Pu Yunjing pleadingly, hoping that she could help him. After all, they were working for the Park Shengtai family. Little did he know that the moment Li Fujian entered the room, Pu Yunjing was so scared that her legs started cramping. When Li Fujian apologized to Jiang Tian, she was so shocked that her heart almost jumped out of her throat. That was Li Fujian, Li Jianxi's daughter. Even her grandfather, Park Shengtai, had to put on a smile when he saw Li Fujian. The Park Shengtai family and Dayu Pharmaceuticals were only in the pharmaceutical industry. To be precise, Korean medicine was doing well. But compared to the Star Moon Lee family and Star Moon Group, the top conglomerate in South Korea, they were nothing. The Star Moon Group only needed to pull out the medical department of Star Moon Chemical to be able to suppress Dayu Pharmaceutical. Pu Yunjing did not dare to say a word. She shuffled toward the door, but how could Li Fujian let her go? Yunjing, Pu Yunjing was so shocked that her whole body suddenly trembled. She lowered her head and stepped forward like a quail. She said with a smile, "Miss Li, I was just playing with them. Shut up." Li Fujian's face turned cold as she roared. She looked at Pu Yunjing with an exasperated look and said coldly, "What did you say when you got financing from Star Moon Financial? You said that you want to bring Korean medicine to greater heights and focus on product development. You said that you want to develop your own intellectual property. But you plagiarized Medicine King Group's product. They haven't even said anything, and you're here to pick a fight." When Li Fujian faced Jiang Tian, he was like a believer seeing a god, trembling with fear and treading on thin ice. But when facing Pu Yunjing, she was completely like a high and mighty empress, ordering people around and giving orders. This was the reason why she displayed the monstrous arrogance of the Star Moon Li family's eldest princess. "I didn't." Pu Yunjing still wanted to explain. However, he was immediately interrupted by Li Fujian. She snorted coldly and said, "This is Star Moon Group's hotel, and you dare to be so presumptuous. It's clear how you usually behave. If that's the case, I think Star Moon Group should withdraw its investment. I'll have a good talk with Mr. Pu Yunjing." Li Fujian's words were icy cold, and every single one of them was like a spear and a sword that pierced Pu Yunjing's heart, causing her face to turn ghastly pale, and she was on the verge of collapse. "What are you waiting for? Get out of here!" Li Fujian shouted angrily. Yes. I'm leaving now." When Pu Yunjing came, she was arrogant and insufferably arrogant. But when she left, she was covered in dirt and grime, as if she had lost her parents. She was as panicked as a stray dog. Her legs were so weak that she couldn't even walk properly. She had to be carried out by 2 assistants. "Mr. Jiang, if anyone dares to cause trouble, please inform me immediately. I am willing to protect you." Li Fujian helped the TCM delegation change to another meeting room before he sent someone to send Zhang Xuanhu to the hospital before he spoke respectfully. "Yeah, thank you for your hard work. You can leave first. We still have a meeting to attend." Jiang Tian nodded his head. At this moment, everyone looked at Jiang Tian in a different light. The Jiang family's crown prince was too formidable. His connections were so extensive that he even knew the eldest daughter of the Star Moon Li family, Li Fujian. "Divine Physician Jiang, what's your relationship with the eldest daughter of the Li family?" Someone couldn't hold back his curiosity and asked. "Friends?" Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to explain. He turned to Shen Mange and said, "Follow her. This time, I want to ruin her reputation." "Yes, master." Shen Mange nodded her head solemnly and left the hotel silently. "Friends?" Everyone looked at each other. Why did it feel like they were meeting a leader when they saw him? Emo Jingrong patted Jiang Tian's shoulder and praised, "With Divine Physician Jiang around, we're even more powerful than the embassy. At the very least, we can wrestle with the TKM doctors fairly this time." Only Zhang Yanghao's eyes lit up. He seemed to have understood something. He heard that Master Kong had swept through Southeast Asia. Could it be that he has also conquered South Korea? That night, Pu Yunjing went to a bar angrily and called a few of her close friends over for a drink. These people were the scions of the richest tycoons in South Korea. If they worked together, they could do anything in South Korea. The young master of Hyundai Industries, Jung Chu-ha, and the vice-chairman of Korea Real Estate, Choi Jun-hee. One of them was her admirer, and the other was her best friend. Other than that, there was also the young master of Letian Entertainment, Yin Dong-yuan. Letian Entertainment was one of the biggest entertainment companies in South Korea. They had produced many blockbusters like Winter Love Song, Killing Memory, and many others. Under Yin Dong-yuan's banner, there were many famous artists and directors in South Korea, Hwasia, and even the entire East Asia. Choi Jun-hee was dashing, but he looked a little effeminate. Putting his arm around Pu Yunjing's shoulder, he said, "Yunjing, why are you angry? Don't worry about it. Hwasia's TCM isn't a match for TKM. Jun-hee, it's not as simple as you think. If TKM's application is successful, it will be equivalent to obtaining the Western world's recognition, and Daewoo Pharmaceutical Company might even be able to enter Western Europe and America's market." Zheng Chuha might have pursued Pu Yunjing for many years, but he was not surprised by Choi Jun-hee's intimacy. After all, this fellow did not like women. Zheng Chuha had a straight nose and a square mouth. His hair was slicked back, but he did not look old. On the contrary, he gave off a domineering aura. Sipping on his red wine, he smiled. Although the success rate of TCM causing trouble is low, we can't afford any mistakes. If we fail, then Yunjing's years of effort will be wasted. With a charming smile, Choi Jun-hee replied, "Then let's teach them a lesson during the International Medical Skills Exchange. I have a few ferocious men under me, and the United States Marine Corps has hired them. They're great at fighting. They're not something that trash like Li Zhenglong can compare to. But Li Fuzhen has her eyes on him, and she's protecting that Hua Xia man. So how are we going to make a move?" Pu Yunjing said in despair. "That bitch is a disgrace to us women. She actually likes that ugly Hua Xia man." Choi Jun-hee curled his lips in disdain. His attitude was that of a woman's. "Yunjing, don't worry. That man is only Li Fuzhen's pet. Li Fuzhen's private life is messy, and she has at least 100 pet boys. So we don't have to be too concerned about it." Zheng Chuha smiled and said, "Mr. Pu Zhengtai is a great benefactor to the patriarchs of the major families. Moreover, we're doing this for the development of TKM. This is for the sake of the nation." At the side, Yin Dongyuan interrupted, "Li Fuzhen does have some strength, but with our three great families working together, I'm afraid she'll have to think twice. She's not a fool, she won't fall out with us over a boy toy." Zheng Chuha said, "I suggest that we report this matter to our families tonight. When the time comes, let the elders suppress Li Fuzhen. No matter how strong she is, she's just a junior. How can she go against so many elders? Li Jianxi won't support her either. As for us, we'll teach Hua Xia TCM a lesson." When everyone heard that, they nodded in agreement. "If you can persuade your parents, then there won't be a problem. Chuha, you're the best," Pu Yunjing said with gratitude and surprise. Zheng Chuha, Choi Jun-hee, Yin Dongyun. The families behind them combined were enough to compete with the Xingyue Li family. If they worked together, Li Fuzhen would have to think twice. If it was a conflict of interests, Li Fuzhen might fight to the death for the Hua Xia kid. However, Li Fuzhen did not dare to fall out with them because of a pet boy. Moreover, there were their elders. The visiting group from Hua Xia TCM would be completely suppressed. At that moment, Zheng Chuha said excitedly, "Oh right. I heard that the new palace master of the Tanjun Taoist Palace, Li Jinju, will be hosting the Tanjun celebration at the Seoul International Convention and Exhibition Center tomorrow night. When the time comes, everyone must build a good relationship with her. She'll be there too." "That's great." Everyone was excited. Li Jinju was the new palace master of the Tanjun Taoist Palace. Tanjun was the faith of the South Koreans. She was their ancestor, the god of creation. The palace master of the Taoist palace was Tanjuan's spokesperson. It was no exaggeration to say that she was like a queen. Even the president treated her like a god and obeyed her every word. If they could curry favor with Li Jinju, it would be equivalent to gaining the support of the government. In terms of finance, industrial land, and industrial policy, they would receive extremely favorable support. What's so great about her? Is she prettier than me? Is she prettier than me? Choi Jun-hee said with a face full of jealousy. The palace master of the Tanjun Daoist Palace is not a competition of beauty. She's an expert who has been enlightened by Tanjun. Pu Yunjing looked at him mockingly. Don't say such things. If his believers hear you, they will tear you to pieces. The Choi family will also be boycotted by the public. Zheng Chuha gave Choi Jun-hee a warning look. He was so scared that his face turned pale. He secretly cursed the sissy for talking big. They chatted for a while longer. Pu Yunjing looked at the time, then stood up and said, "Everyone, I'll leave you to it. I still have some things to do." "Yunjing, we haven't talked for a while. Why are you leaving?" Zheng Chuha said reluctantly. "I'm really busy. Tomorrow is the most important day. Victory or defeat depends on it." Pu Yunjing waved her hand and smiled sweetly. She was so cute that Zheng Chuha almost fainted from her charms. Zheng Chuha walked her out of the bar. He put his hands in his pockets and smiled elegantly. "Yunjing, you drank a lot just now. Are you okay? Do you want me to drive you?" "I'm fine. I brought a driver." Pu Yunjing's beautiful eyes were as clear as water. She took his hand and looked at Zheng Chuha gratefully. "Thank you, Appa, for supporting me. After the application is over, how about we start dating?" There seemed to be a trace of intoxicating tenderness between his fingers. Zheng Chuha was so happy that he almost fainted. He laughed in disbelief. "Yunjing, am I hallucinating? If Appa can't accept Yunjing, Yunjing will be very sad." Pu Yunjing lowered her head and smiled shyly. She was as pure as a white lotus. Zheng Chuha was stunned. After Pu Yunjing drove away in the BMW sports car, Zheng Chuha was still standing there in a daze. He said with an intoxicated face, "For you, I would go through fire and water." Chapter 384. Pu Yunjing soon arrived at the car park of a 5-star hotel. She put on her sunglasses to cover half of her face and went to a presidential suite on the 5th floor. "Beautiful Miss Pu, TKM's application has been approved. We just need to announce it tomorrow. But you also have to fulfill your promise, right?" A golden-haired, blue-eyed man with thick hair and a burly figure sat on the sofa with a big belly. He smiled and said, "I wonder how Miss Pu would like to thank me?" He was the person in charge of UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage Protection Group. At the same time, he was also a famous medical scientist. He was a tenured professor in America's Washington Medical College and also an academic consultant for several medical journals. "Charles, I've said that I won't treat you unfairly." Pu Yunjing took off her sunglasses and took out a paper bag from her purse. She handed it over and said, "Bearer bonds issued by Daewoo Pharmaceutical Company with a face value of $2 million USD. The liquidity in the market is very good. You can exchange them at any financial institution." Miss Pu is a trustworthy businesswoman. Charles nodded his head in satisfaction and shrugged his shoulders. "But the conditions you mentioned before don't seem to be limited to these, right?" "Of course, I didn't forget." Pu Yunjing smiled faintly and unbuttoned her shirt, revealing her snow-white and towering chest. Subsequently, her skirt, underwear, her clothes fell to the ground one by one. "You're really an enchanting little vixen." Charles's gaze gradually heated up, and his breathing became heavier. In the end, a delicate body with exquisite curves, snow-white skin, and tight curves appeared, like a white rose that quietly bloomed in the dark night, completely exposed before his eyes. "Miss Pu, you're amazing. You're simply like an angel that brings warmth to the cold world." 10 minutes later, Charles, who was sweating profusely, roared with a satisfied smile on his face. "There's one more thing that I need your help with." Pu Yunjing held a thin female more menthol cigarette in her mouth and lit it with a custom-made lighter made of pure gold. She leaned on the bed wrapped in leather and said, "If there's a suitable price, I can help." Charles had the face of a shrewd businessman. Huaxia's Medicine King Corporation might file a lawsuit against us for intellectual property infringement. Pu Yunjing explained the situation to him. I want to know if you guys are really infringing? Otherwise, I can't help you. Charles felt the seriousness of the situation. His brown bear-like body sat up, picked up the Camel cigarettes on the bedside, and put one in his mouth with a solemn expression. Pu Yunjing hesitated for a brief moment before she bitterly smiled. It's a real infringement. We purchased a lot of their herbs and used the most advanced biochemistry experiment to analyze the effective ingredients. Then, we used 8 months to imitate them using different ratios. She took out a stack of documents from her purse and handed them to Charles. She sighed and said, I didn't expect these Huaxia country bumpkins to have such a strong sense of intellectual property protection. They actually found out. They also want us to stop production and compensate for their losses. They will file a lawsuit in Huaxia, which is naturally disadvantageous to you. Charles quickly flipped through the information and shook his head. Therefore, we must get an authoritative appraisal from the International Intellectual Property Office to prove that our drug is original. I see that there's an additional ingredient in your medicine. Why do you say that it's an infringement? Charles asked. You don't understand Eastern medicinal herbs. Pu Yunjing said, the medicinal herbs I added have mild medicinal properties. In short, they are ineffective ingredients. At least, they have no effect on this prescription. You're a smart person. Looks like you've thought of this day a long time ago. Charles reached out his bear-like hand and pinched the girl's supple and smooth buttocks. He smiled and praised. But I didn't expect it to be so fast. Charles, can you help me with this? Give me a clear answer. Pu Yunjing panted and whispered into Charles's ear. The director of the International Intellectual Property Office's appraisal center is my senior. I think if you're willing to pay $5 million USD, he should be willing to help you. Charles gritted his teeth. However, he also likes gentle Eastern women. I'm afraid you'll have to serve the two of us this time. No problem. I like the two of you who are strong the most. If we can enjoy good sex together, that's even better. Pu Yunjing said vaguely. They didn't know that outside the room's window, a graceful and vigorous body was lying there like a gecko. At this moment, with a soft swish, she jumped down like a nimble leopard cat and landed silently. Shen Mange got into a red Mercedes-Benz sports car, turned on the camera, clicked the play button, and enjoyed the video. Both the picture and the sound are very clear. Military products are of excellent quality. She chuckled and stepped on the accelerator. The Mercedes-Benz sports car rushed out of the parking lot like a red lightning bolt and disappeared into the night. At 8 o'clock the next day, Li Fuzhen arranged a number of luxury cars to send Jiang Tian and the Chinese medicine delegation to the venue of the celebration of the successful application of Koryo medicine. Jinju is preparing to attend the Tanjun ceremony and accept the worship of many senior officials and rich businessmen. She can't accompany you, so she arranged for me to accompany you. But she still hopes that you can attend the Tanjun ceremony in the evening. Li Fuzhen said with a sweet smile. She was wearing a red evening dress and a diamond necklace around her neck. Although she was 35 years old, her eyebrows were picturesque, and she had a mature charm. Her skin was white and lustrous, which still gave people a feeling of radiance, like a princess in splendid dress. Thank you for your hard work. Jiang Tian did not comment and got into a Lincoln limousine. The rest also got into the limousine. The motorcade drove along the wide street and headed straight to the Seoul International Convention and Exhibition Center in Gangnam District. In the car, Li Fuzhen smiled. Actually, if Master Kong is willing, he can stop the application with just a word from Jinju. Why do you have to go through the trouble of competing with them? No, the medical world has its own rules. What matters is the effect, the ability to treat patients. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. I can't use my authority to oppress others, but I have to convince them with my skills. I have to make the South Korean medical community accept their defeat. Yeah, Jiang Tian is right. Beside them, Jiang Chang'an also nodded in agreement. Mo Jingrong and Zhang Yanghao also nodded their heads. I never imagined that there would be such a magnificent man in the world. Li Fuzhen looked at Jiang Tian's handsome side profile as Jiang Tian's words echoed in her ears. For a moment, she was captivated. She felt that she had met so many men, but none of them could be compared to Jiang Tian. I hate that I didn't meet him before I got married. If I was 10 years younger, my sister wouldn't be here. Her heart was filled with surprise, tenderness, regret, and disappointment. Her heart was filled with hundreds of knots, hundreds of twists and turns. The Seoul International Convention and Exhibition Center was located beside the Han River, overlooking the Jianghuawen Bay at the mouth of the Han River. The strangely shaped building protruded out of the sea like an island. Under the bright sunlight, the glass dome shone with a dazzling luster. The nearby roads were heavily guarded, and luxurious cars drove into the 2,300-space parking lot under the guidance of the security guards. Luxurious cars and celebrities gathered in the parking lot. Today, the celebration of TKM's application was held here. The World Medical and Pharmaceutical Exchange Conference and Tanjun's celebration were held here. Many tycoons and celebrities from South Korea, including politicians and dignitaries, attended the event. Under Li Fuzhen's guidance, Jiang Tian and his entourage alighted from the car and walked towards the main hall of the Convention and Exhibition Center. At the same time, a group of reporters rushed towards them. Zhang Yanghao smiled proudly and said, "I didn't expect Huaxia's traditional Chinese medicine to be so popular." But in the next moment his smile froze on his face, and he could no longer smile. The reporters walked past them and went straight to a Mercedes-Benz behind them. Zhang Yanghao was embarrassed. The door of the Mercedes-Benz opened, and with the help of Pu Yunjing, who was wearing an ancient Korean costume, an old man with white hair and a white beard got out of the car with a smile. "He's Park Chung-tae. He's very popular in South Korea and even internationally. His Chung-tae Medical Center has even opened in New York and Washington." Li Fuzhen, who was wearing sunglasses, introduced. Jiang Changging's face turned green as he said angrily, "It's just TKM, and they had only learned bits and pieces from TCM. But now, they want to establish their own brand and gain the recognition of the international community. They want to suppress TCM. This is the biggest joke in the world." That's right. They even stole the Medicine King's patent and took it for themselves. They are no different from thieves. Zhang Yanghao supported Jiang Changging and said angrily, "All these years, the Ministry of Health has not given enough support to TCM. Our next step is to increase our funding and policies. We also need to promote TCM in public." In fact, it was just as Jiang Changging and Zhang Yanghao had said. In the international arena, TKM was far more famous than TCM. Many of the essence and skills of TCM had been lost, but TKM still had some. Furthermore, South Korea values their national spirit and traditional culture. They treat TKM as a treasure and promote it throughout the country and even the world. TKM's application to the World Heritage Site is their most significant achievement. Just like today, when the TCM delegation arrived, the media did not even bother to look at them. They are unknown in the international community, and they are disappointed. On the other hand, Park Chung-tae and many other TKM doctors are surrounded by throngs of reporters. Surrounded by many media reporters, they threw out one question after another in reverence, as if they were believers who had seen a god. Chapter 385. If they succeed, then both of us will be sinners in history. Jiang Changging roared, "Grandpa, don't worry. With me around, they won't succeed." Jiang Tian comforted before he accompanied the old man to the Silver Hall on the 3rd floor. "Master Kong, how are you going to deal with Park Chung-tae?" Li Fuzhen asked curiously as she walked. "I'll compete with them in terms of medical skills to see who's better." Jiang Tian smiled. "I'm afraid that they have already guessed it and prepared a troublesome patient in advance." Li Fuzhen locked her brows together. She was worried that Park Chung-tae would have the home ground advantage, and it wouldn't be a fair duel. "It's fine." Jiang Tian smiled. By the side, Zhang Yanghao was even more confident as he said, "Grandmaster Zhang's medical skills are unfathomable. He has the ability to bring the dead back to life. With him making a move, won't that old punk Pu Jingtai kneel and beg for mercy? There's still an hour before the start of the exchange, and Jiang Tian and the other physicians from Huaxia were resting in a Western restaurant in the Silver Hall. Kim Jinju is calling, and she must be asking if you guys have arrived safely. I'll go and answer the call. Li Fujian's phone suddenly rang. Alright, go ahead. Jiang Tian nodded his head, and Li Fujian went to the bathroom to answer the call. The Star Moon Hotel serves Korean cuisine, and everyone wasn't used to it. Hence, they ordered some simple dishes and chatted as they ate. Just when Jiang Tian was discussing with Jiang Tian and Zhang Yanghao, a surprised voice resounded. Jiang Tian. Andy Zhang. Old classmate, it's you. Jiang Tian raised his head and saw Li Huiyan, whom he had not met for a long time. 2 years ago, Lu Yiting wanted to hire a spokesperson for her beauty store, and Li Huiyan was holding a concert in Linzhou City. Hence, Jiang Tian went over to mediate. He didn't expect Li Huiyan's agent, Guomingjia, to be so disrespectful to Jiang Tian. In fact, Jiang Tian did not take it seriously. However, his fiery sister-in-law, Zhao Qianru, quarreled with the other party and even got physical. In the end, it was Li Huiyan's boss, Bai Choufei, and Zhou Zhenghao who appeared together to calm things down. However, from then on, Jiang Tian and Li Huiyan no longer interacted. In fact, Li Huiyan had visited Zhang Wanqing in the past 2 years when she went back to Jinling to visit her relatives. She even offered to endorse Medicine King's products for free, but Zhang Wanqing politely declined. She also wanted to see Jiang Tian, but Jiang Tian had been in Singapore for the Spring Festival last year and in Jiangzhuang the year before that. He had so many things to do, so how could he have time to see her? However, Jiang Tian often heard news about her on the car radio. She had released a new song, acted in a popular TV series, and so on. It seemed that Bai Choufei was also giving him face, and had spared no effort to support him. It seemed that she had already become an A-list celebrity on Huaxia, and was known as one of the 4 young actresses. At this moment, she was wearing a white evening gown, crystal high heels, and a pair of snake-shaped earrings. Her makeup was glamorous, and her aura was powerful. She looked like an international superstar. Next to her was a male companion who was dressed luxuriously. Huiyan, what are you doing here? Zhang Wanqing had a good impression of Li Huiyan, so she asked with a smile. Li Huiyan and Jiang Tian were high school classmates, and she was extremely outstanding. A few years ago, when Li Huiyan had just debuted, she had endorsed Medicine King's products for a very low fee. In the past 2 years, she would visit Zhang Wanqing during every festival. Even when Zhang Wanqing was not in Jinling, she would call him to say hello. She was an extremely considerate girl. And I'm here to talk to a South Korean film company about a new Sino-South Korean co-production. Coincidentally, there's a grand banquet here, so I came to take a look. Are you here too? Li Huiyan pulled Zhang Wanqing's hand like an excited little sparrow as she chattered. She had always been a cold goddess in front of the public, but she was not qualified to be cold in front of Zhang Wanqing. We have some business to attend. Zhang Wanqing smiled and did not explain further. Oh, then Andy Zhang, Jiang Tian, can I treat you to dinner after the event? Li Huiyan looked at Jiang Tian expectantly. Jiang Tian did not reply. I'm afraid we don't have much time. Why don't you attend the event with me? Zhang Wanqing asked with a smile. Before Li Huiyan could make a decision, a hint of jealousy flashed in the eyes of the man beside Li Huiyan. Jiang Tian was currently in his mortal form. After all, the golden gung divine body was too handsome, and it might cause a commotion. Even so, Jiang Tian still exuded a strange charm. Li Huiyan's eyes lit up when she saw Jiang Tian, and Yin Dongyuan felt even more uncomfortable. Since you are Huiyan's friends, I will bring you to attend the grand banquet later. Yin Dongyuan placed his hands in his pockets and said proudly, everyone here is one of the wealthiest people in South Korea. It will be beneficial to your development in South Korea. Li Huiyan quickly added, Mr. Yin Dongyuan is the young master of South Korea's Letian film and television. The internationally famous director Yin Digue is his cousin. Other than that, he also invests in real estate. This convention center belongs to his family. Yin Dongyuan extended his hand gracefully. Nice to meet you. My name is Yin Dongyuan. Yin Dongyuan originally thought that when Li Huiyan revealed his family background and identity, Jiang Tian would definitely turn pale with fright. Unexpectedly, no matter if it was Jiang Tian or Zhang Wanqing, their expressions didn't change at all. South Korea's Yin family is an ancient family. Yin Dongyuan heard they are part of the royal family, and their titles were conferred by the palace master of Tanjun Daoist Palace. They control many film, music, video games, culture, video, and entertainment companies, and own half of South Korea's entertainment industry. Also, the company's films and video games are popular. The packaged male and female idol groups were even more famous in China, forming the Hallyu clan. It could be said that everyone knew about them. But Jiang Tian is a Taichu celestial lord in the past, and why would he care about a small family like Yin Dongyuan? Zhang Wanqing, Jiang Changging, and Zhang Yanghao are all traditional Chinese medicine giants, and they have worked hard to revive traditional Chinese medicine culture. What they hate the most is the invasion of Korean culture. Why would they treat Yin Dongyuan nicely? Seeing Jiang Tian's expressionless face, Yin Dongyuan's face darkened. Just as he was about to mock Jiang Tian, Li Fuzhen walked out of the washroom. Jiang Tian stood up and said calmly, "Let's go. The event is about to start." Everyone quickly got up and followed behind him. The group ignored Li Huiyan and Yin Dongyuan and walked towards the Silver Hall. Yin Dongyuan's handsome face darkened, and his cheeks twitched. He clenched his fists and wished he could beat up Jiang Tian. Seeing Yin Dongyuan's unhappy expression, Li Huiyan quickly added, "Mr. Yin, Mr. Jiang is very influential in Huaxia, and even my company's boss respects him. I think he must have something urgent to attend to." A country bumpkin from Huaxia dares to act all high and mighty in South Korea. Yin Dongyuan is still angry. He originally wanted to use his family's background to suppress Jiang Tian, but who would have thought that Jiang Tian would not even look at him? This kind of disrespect was something that Yin Dongyuan, who had always been arrogant, could not accept. "Huiyan, accompany me to the Tanjun ceremony. This time, many tycoons and high-ranking officials will be attending. More importantly, some celebrities will be invited, and it will be helpful for your career." Yin Dongyuan said gracefully, but his eyes flashed with greed when he saw Li Huiyan's voluptuous breasts and curvy buttocks. Li Huiyan was a typical Oriental beauty. Moreover, she was in the golden age of a woman. Every frown and smile of hers was full of charm. Yin Dongyuan had played with many A-list stars in girl groups over the years, but he felt they are still lacking compared to Li Huiyan. A ticket to enter South Korea's high society and film industry should be enough to attract her. Regarding this, Yin Dongyuan was confident of victory. Indeed, Li Huiyan's eyes brighten up. She is very popular in Huaxia, but she is not that popular in South Korea. Yin Dongyuan's family is influential in the film industry, and they are more influential than any film company in Huaxia. If she could really become the female lead of the Sino-Korean action blockbuster, it would be equivalent to being able to walk out of the country and even break out of Asia to go international. But Li Huiyan hesitated as she looked at Jiang Tian's back. Although she only met Jiang Tian once 2 years ago, the scene of Bai Chofei begging for mercy was deeply engraved in her mind. Furthermore, the king of medicine, Jiang Tian's family, is the most powerful family in Jinling. But on second thought, no matter how powerful the Jiang family is, it has nothing to do with the film industry. When she saw Jiang Tian's group entering the Silver Hall, she sighed and said, "Let's go." When Jiang Tian's group entered the Silver Hall, everyone's attention was drawn to them. Many important events, including the G20 summit, have been held here before. The hall is more than 300 square meters, and there are more than 50 medical leaders, experts, and medical officials from the Guo family from around the world. There are more than 500 people in total, and there are also many seats for the media. The Chinese medicine delegation is here. Are they here to cause trouble? What's the use? The TKM application is basically set in stone. The TCM of Huaxia is here to make their presence known. They're just asking to be humiliated. I wonder how sad and disappointed they will be when they see TKM in this state. Serves them right. It's only right that they don't respect the things passed down by their ancestors. The leading figures and experts in the medical field from all over the world looked at Jiang Tian's group with disdain and started discussing among themselves. The experts of Huaxia's TCM field are here. I've been paying attention to the development of TCM in Huaxia. This must be Imperial Physician Zhang, and this is Mr. Jiang. I've heard of your names for a long time. At this moment, Pu Zhengtai, who was sitting in the front row, heard the voices and greeted them with a smile. He spoke fluent Chinese and shook hands with them. Behind him were Pu Yunjing, Zheng Chuha, Choi Juanxi, and many other young talents from South Korea. Yes, Mr. Pu. Nice to meet you. Although Jiang Changing and the rest were displeased, they still maintained their poise. At this moment, Pu Yunjing took a step forward and walked to Pu Zhengtai's side. She said with disdain, "Grandpa, according to the rules of the conference, there are no seats prepared for the Chinese physicians because they were not invited. Huaxia's TCM is just a medical school that can't be brought to the table. It's third-rate and has no right to step onto the international stage." Chapter 386. How can you be so rude to guests from afar? Pu Zhengtai pretended to be angry. As it turned out, Huaxia's TCM was not invited to the International Medical Conference for the celebration of TKM's successful application. However, Huaxia's TCM Association decided to take the initiative and sent a letter requesting to participate in the conference. Pu Yunjing was purposely trying to intimidate Jiang Tian and the rest. She spoke in Mandarin, and everyone could hear her clearly despite her lack of fluency. A declining medical school like TCM is going to be finished soon. Why waste this precious opportunity? Why don't you give it to other schools of medicine? Pu Yunjing looked at Jiang Tian and the others with a cold expression, as if she was looking down on weak ants. What nonsense are you spouting? Zhang Yanghao was so angry that he almost fainted. Ha, Imperial Physician Zhang, I have my reasons. Pu Yunjing was not afraid at all. She stood there elegantly like a princess and smiled. According to the statistics of the International Health Organization, there were 800,000 practitioners of TCM in China during the Republic of China. In 1949, there were 500,000 practitioners. Now, there are only 180,000 practitioners. According to the research of the International Health Organization, most of the practitioners of TCM in China are just hanging sheep's head to sell dog meat. Only 10% of TCM practitioners prescribe decoctions. We believe that at this rate, TCM in Huaxia will be extinct in 10 years. Everyone's face froze when they heard that. They were furious, but they could not refute it. To a certain extent, what Pu Yunjing said was the truth. The cruel truth. In Huaxia, Western medicine was popular. Most patients were superstitious about Western medicine, and only 1 in 100 was willing to see a TCM practitioner. This time, if TKM succeeds in its application, it will definitely attract the attention of the world. Pu Yunjing smiled proudly. 10 years later, TKM will become the mainstream of medicine in the world. You TCM practitioners should quickly return to your own land and wait for death. Miss Pu is really amazing. Not only are her medical skills excellent, but she also has business skills. These TCM practitioners can't say anything against her. Miss Pu has hit the nail on the head. The decline of TCM is an indisputable fact. The group of TKM representatives laughed and gave Pu Yunjing a thumbs up. Zheng Chuha's eyes lit up. He only felt that Pu Yunjing's words were so cool, which made Chinese medicine speechless and proud. If I were you, I wouldn't have the face to come. Choi Juanxi, who was wearing a gorgeous suit and a pair of calfskin shoes inlaid with sparkling diamonds, walked over and pointed at Jiang Changing and the others with a disdainful look. Damned transvestite, what's the meaning of this? A Chinese doctor cursed. Over the years, our TKM has been popularized throughout the country. Moreover, we've even gone overseas and spread all over the world. Choi Juanxi pouted her red lips and pointed at the crowd. What about you guys? Losing ground after ground, declining day by day. The things passed down by our ancestors have all been destroyed by you. Yeah, it's an international medical conference. Even Native American doctors have a seat. On the other hand, Zheng Chuha's face was also filled with arrogance as he mocked. Your TCM is just a superstition that disregards human life. They're just a bunch of ignorant and incompetent swindlers. We call on the World Health Organization to ban all traditional Chinese medicine and traditional Chinese medicine shops internationally. Well, what did you say? Who do you think you are to ban us just because you say so? Many Chinese medicine doctors were stunned. They did not expect the South Korean side to be so aggressive. Not qualified to attend this conference? Go back to Huaxia and wait for your death? Ban TCM? Just when everyone was at a loss for words, a cold voice resounded throughout the hall, but it was in standard Korean. TCM is the origin of Asian medical skills. Regardless of East Asia's traditional Chinese medicine, TKM, or Southern medicine, all of them are just derivatives of TCM. No matter how popular your TKM is and how skillful your techniques are, you are still the disciples of TCM. For example, your TKM is the adopted son of the old mother of TCM. Now, the son had made a fortune, but the old mother is old and weak. You all are not going to acknowledge her and even want to take over her ancestral home and brand. What is this called? This is called heartless and unscrupulous. Good. All the Chinese medicine doctors in Huaxia looked at Jiang Tian and applauded. For you. Pu Zhengtai glared fiercely at Jiang Tian, and the veins on his forehead bulged. He was like a ferocious wolf that was about to devour its prey. Jiang Tian's words touched his sore spot, pinching his weak spot. It was to the extent that he, who was astonishingly well-mannered, had his emotions greatly erupt. Jiang Tian lazily walked over, smiled indifferently, and said arrogantly, "You don't have the right to know my name." Then, "Handsome, am I qualified to know your name?" Choi Junhee's eyes lit up when he saw Jiang Tian. How can there be such a handsome man in the world? He is more handsome than those South Korean celebrities. He wriggled his way towards Jiang Tian, looking at Jiang Tian with an intoxicated expression. "How about coming to my winery for a drink tonight? I am very interested in you." "Come back here." Pak Yunjing pulled Choi Junhee back and whispered something into Pak Yong-tae's ears. "So, it's you." Pak Yong-tae sneered. "You are just Jiang Changging's grandson and a junior in the medical field. You are not qualified to talk to me." I'm not qualified. My medical skills are unfathomable, and I can even be called the medical deity or medical saint. I can even bring the dead back to life. How can you be compared to me?" Jiang Tian looked at Pak Yong-tae with disdain, and Pak Yong-tae was so angry that he almost jumped up. This brat is too arrogant. He is too arrogant. If he can bring the dead back to life, he might even win the Nobel Prize in medicine. Nonsense. This is against the common sense of medicine. There was a simultaneous translation system in this kind of meeting. When the medical giants heard what Pak Yong-tae said, they were stunned and could not believe their ears. Suppressing his rage, Pak Yong-tae maintained his poise as a leading figure in the medical industry and smiled. "Mr. Jiang, I don't agree with your claim that TKM came from China. I have already said that all of you are heartless and have forgotten your ancestors. Of course, you don't agree with me." Jiang Tian's words nearly drove Pak Yong-tae mad. Zheng Chuha's face turned furious as he reprimanded, "Mr. Jiang, please maintain your gentlemanly demeanor in an upper-class society. If you continue to be so rude, I'll have you arrested for the crime of personal insult. I am the young master of Hyundai Group, Zheng Chuha. I am not joking, and you must believe that I have the ability to do so." Zheng Chuha proudly introduced himself, hoping to intimidate Jiang Tian. You are just the son of a car repair factory's director. You have not even washed the petrol off your face, and you dare to pretend to be a gentleman? What a joke." Jiang Tian smiled disdainfully and said, "Your Chinese is not bad. Let me teach you a sentence and let you pass level 6 in Chinese. My words are rough but not rough, and you guys are rough. You speak of gentlemanly manners and social etiquette, but in reality, you guys are despicable and shameless." How can you speak so arrogantly in this kind of high-class meeting? You are just trying to please the crowd with your nonsense. Zheng Chuhe was trembling with anger because of Jiang Tian. At this moment, Zheng Chuhe wanted to chop Jiang Tian into pieces. But this was a foreign occasion, and he had to be mindful of social etiquette. You are the arrogant one. You are not qualified to talk to me. Even your grandfather, the founder of Hyundai Group, is not qualified to talk to me. Jiang Tian pointed at Zheng Chuhe's nose and scolded. And now, my argument with Park Shengtai has nothing to do with him. I don't despise him, but there is no need for me to respect him either. In your eyes, I am trying to please the crowd, but in my eyes, I am talking about who is the source of TKM and TCM. This is not a small issue between individuals. Jiang Tian sneered. Children should not interrupt when adults are talking. Obediently scram to the side, or else I'll slap you with my big mouth. I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your grandfather. For a moment, everyone was dumbfounded. This was Zheng Chuhe they were talking about. He was born in a top family, and he was expected to control Hyundai Group in the future. He was one of the top 4 scions in South Korea, and he was on par with Star Moon Group's Lee Jerong. But now, he was being scolded by this Hua Xia kid. Hua Xia had always been particular about peace and harmony, so they were always humble and courteous when dealing with people. But this person was arrogant, supercilious. Everyone's impression of Hua Xia was refreshed. It turned out that Hua Xia people were also like that. Zheng Chuhe was infuriated to the point his teeth creaked while his face turned red, white and green. Chuhe, you don't have to say anything. This is an academic argument between us. Park Shengtai patted Zheng Chuhe's shoulder to calm him down. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Jiang Tian carefully for the first time. It was rare for him to see a young man with such sharp words and powerful aura. Zheng Chuhe was no match for him at all. He placed his hands behind his back and said calmly, I have my reasons for not agreeing that TKM originated from Hua Xia. The Yellow Emperor's internal classic, Su Wen Chapter, Volume 4 mentioned that those who use stones came from the East. This means that stones and acupuncture came from Korea to Hua Xia. There are many similar examples, and it shows that TKM is the source of TCM. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. The Yellow Emperor's internal classic was the most important medical book in TCM. It was hard to refute him when he used it to prove his point. You only know one part of it. Jiang Tian said calmly, there are 3 theories about when the Yellow Emperor's internal classic was written. The first is that Hua Xia was before the Qin and Warring States period. The second is that it was written between the Qin and Han dynasties, and the third is that it was written during the Western Han dynasties. But do you know how South Korea came to be? When did you establish your country? Chapter 387. Jiang Tian calmly said, Korea was the first country in the history of the Korean peninsula. 3,000 years ago, King Zhou was tyrannical during the end of the Shang dynasty. The Zhou dynasty took the opportunity to wipe out the Shang dynasty. There was a noble in the Shang dynasty called Jizi. He was unwilling to be a subject of Western Zhou and led 5,000 Shang dynasty people to Korea. Stone cutting and acupuncture were invented by Hua Xia, and Jizi also knew how to do it. At that time, the Korean peninsula was a barbarian land, and there were wild beasts everywhere. There was a shortage of resources and medicine, and that was the reason why stone cutting and acupuncture were so popular. Jizi developed it in the Korean peninsula and spread it to Hua Xia. But the origin must be from Hua Xia. That is because Jizi is from Hua Xia. Wow! Jiang Changing, Zhang Yanghao, and the rest applauded and looked at Jiang Tian in a new light. Zhang Wanqing was also proud. She did not expect Jiang Tian to be so knowledgeable. He even knows about such obscure knowledge. She did not know that Jiang Tian had read many ancient books to find out about the secrets of the ruins of immortals. His knowledge of history was no less than any history professor. These are all unofficial histories. You can't treat them as real. Park Shengtai panicked and tried to refute. Unofficial histories? According to historical records, South Korea is not even a vassal state of Hwaseong. You are only a part of Hwaseong's territory. Jiang Tian's tongue was as sharp as a sword, bombarding him once again. What did you say? Pak Shingtai was so angry that his hands were shaking. Bullshit. All the Koreans were furious. Jiang Tian said that South Korea belongs to Hwaseong. This is an insult to them. Jiang Tian said with disdain. At the end of the Warring States period, Yu Yi's feat of destroying Qi brought the Yen kingdom to its peak. King Zhao of Yen took advantage of the situation and ordered Wei Man to lead his army into the peninsula. In just a few years, the entire peninsula was under Yen kingdom's control. After that, Qin dynasty conquered Yen kingdom. In truth, until the era of Han Hui, Han Wen, and Han Jing, it was under the jurisdiction of Liaodong Prefecture. Although Wei Man and his descendants have been officials for generations, in the end, they are just subordinates of the Liaodong governor. Therefore, I welcome you to abandon the darkness for the light at any time and jump into the warm embrace of the motherland. Shen Mange looked at Jiang Tian with a mesmerized expression and felt pity for the TKM doctors present. The last part was an insult and a joke. But the words in front were all unpopular historical knowledge. How could he remember it so clearly? If the children of Hwaseong remember history like this, how can the cultural treasures of Hwaseong not be passed down? An old pedant raised his thumb in praise. Yes, yes, yes. We can't lose our ancestors' things. We can't forget our ancestors' history. Mo Jingrong clapped his hands in agreement. Look, the TKM doctors are so angry that their faces have turned green. I reckon that their high blood pressure is about to act up. It was so satisfying. It's so satisfying. Fuck, Divine Dr. Zhang's words are too smooth. How could he be so talented? Many of the TKM doctors felt elated. It was as if they had eaten iced watermelon on a hot day. They felt good from head to toe. He's so handsome. He's so domineering. I feel like I've been conquered. Choi Jun he looked at Jiang Tian with a mesmerized expression as he raised his thumb and middle finger. He couldn't wait to pounce into Jiang Tian's embrace. Young Master Choi, whose side are you on? Someone beside him reminded him. It's simply too embarrassing to bring such a demon here. She's going to be smitten again. Why you're going too far? Pu Yongtae was so angry that he felt dizzy. Many of the TKM doctors were flushed with anger. They couldn't wait to rush up and fight with Jiang Tian. What did you say? Pu Yunjong's body trembled. With a cold expression, she gritted her teeth and shouted, Mr. Jiang, you're insulting us. You're already suspected of insulting the country. Do you know that? I'm not. I'm speaking the truth. Boom. Many of the TKM doctors burst into laughter and cheered. The applause was thunderous. Some were laughing so hard that they slapped their thighs. Some were crying, and some were jumping for joy. Jiang Tian is too mean. Yi Ziwei pursed her lips and looked at Jiang Tian. She was speechless. Grandmaster Jiang's eloquence is too smooth. He's too talented. He's practically on par with Dune society. What he said was like a crosstalk. Some of the female staff members of the visiting group looked at Jiang Tian with admiration and infatuation. Since I started interacting with him yesterday, I felt that he was quite cold and unwilling to speak. I thought that he wasn't eloquent. Who knew that he would use good steel for the blade? Another girl was laughing so hard that she was almost out of breath. Regardless of whether the protest was successful or not, it's worth coming here to listen to Divine Dr. Zhang's crosstalk. Everyone applauded. This brat is just bullshitting. Jiang Changjing shook his head with a smile, but his eyes were filled with joy and admiration. Old master, this is called, a man of great importance should not be bothered by trifles. Who cares if it's true or not? Let's beat down their arrogance first. Zhang Yanghao said. That makes sense. Jiang Changjing nodded. The South Korean TCM was too infuriating, and it wasn't too much for Jiang Tian to return an eye for an eye. Moreover, TKM had clearly wanted to suppress Chinese medicine from the start. But now, with just a few words from Jiang Tian, they had completely turned the tables. Mo Jingrong clapped and laughed. Divine Dr. Zhang's story is very good. First, it proves that South Korea was once a vassal state of Hwaseong. Their medical skills, writing, calligraphy, architecture, and many other traditional cultures originated from Hwaseong. Second, it also shows how ignorant they are. That's right. Look, that lass is so angry that her chest is about to explode. Shen Mange looked at Pu Yunjing sympathetically. You're too much. You're too much. I'm going to kick you out of the country. Pu Yunjing's face turned pale as she pointed at Jiang Tian. She took out her phone and was about to call the police. How can you kick such a dashing and domineering man out of the country? I won't listen to you. Cui Juanxi pulled Pu Yunjing and persuaded her gently. His watery eyes were looking at Jiang Tian affectionately. He even threw a coquettish glance at Jiang Tian, causing Jiang Tian's scalp to go numb. Cui Juanxi, can you stop being a love-struck fool? Pu Yunjing's first move was to crush Hwaseong's TKM doctors. But when Jiang Tian spoke, she threw away her armor. She was so angry that she flung Cui Juanxi to the ground. Cui Juanxi fell to the ground, and her face turned pale. She pouted and almost cried. Yunjing, how can you be so violent? I'm your best friend. Why must a woman make things difficult for another woman? Seeing that Pu Yunjing was about to call the police, Pu Zhengtai raised his hand to stop her. A light flashed in his eyes as he stared at Jiang Tian and said, Mr. Jiang, you said that TKM is stronger, but I think that TKM is better. We're just arguing with each other. It's just a matter of talking. A trace of arrogance flashed in his eyes as he stood with his hands behind his back. There's no point in talking anymore. If you TKM doctors have the guts, you can compete with me in medical skills. If anyone can defeat me, the application for TKM will be invalid. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he coldly said, but if you can't defeat me, then the word Kim will be removed from the world. All of you will have to call yourselves disciples of TKM. As soon as he said that, the audience exclaimed. Pu Zhengtai could be said to be domineering. With his strength alone, he fought against so many medical experts from Hwaseong. He even put the results of the application for the World Heritage Site on the line, which showed his unparalleled confidence. What was a great national doctor? This was what a great national doctor should be. As for Hwaseong, everyone was shocked when they heard what Pu Zhengtai said. This old man is ruthless. But this was a serious matter, and no one dared to say anything. Everyone looked at each other. Zhang Yanghao and Emo Jingrong looked at each other. Emo Jingrong frowned and said, This is a serious matter. I'll have to ask the minister first. Zhang Yanghao then looked at Jiang Changing. Jiang Changing frowned and said with a grave expression, I'll have to ask the minister first. You're just a Korean dog who only knows some trash medical skills. How dare you challenge Hwaseong's TKM? What a joke. I can defeat all of your TKM doctors alone. Before Emo Jingrong could take out his phone, Jiang Tian's voice resounded in the hall. Pu Zhengtai, if you can defeat me, TKM doctors will acknowledge you as their teacher, and all the shares of my Jiang family's Medicine King group will be yours. But if you lose, your Daewoo pharmaceutical company will belong to my Jiang family. TKM will be removed from the list, and TKM will be known as the Korean School of TKM. Do you dare to accept my challenge? As soon as he said that, the entire hall fell silent. Everyone present stared at Jiang Tian, dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. Chapter 388. Who is Park Jung-tae? He is the #1 TKM doctor in South Korea, and no one can beat him in South Korea. Even in Japan, not many TKM doctors are better than him. In 1995, there was a plague outbreak in South Korea. Many Western experts rushed to South Korea to investigate, but they could not find a vaccine after more than a year. In the end, Park Jung-tae led his team to explore South Korea and found ancient prescriptions to save tens of thousands of people. He was hailed as the Korean medical sage by the South Korean government. Due to the 2001 tsunami, there were countless deaths and injuries, and the plague was rampant. Pu Zhengtai led the people from TKM to the disaster area, and it only took them 3 days to come up with a method to deal with the virus. In 2005, there was a SARS outbreak in America. It was highly contagious, and thousands of people were infected in a week. The World Health Organization sent medical experts over, but they could not do anything. Park Shin-tae, who was far away in South Korea, did not go to the scene. He wrote a prescription, and the disease was cured in America. From then on, Park Shin-tae's name spread across America, and Korean medical centers flourished. In South Korea and America, everyone knows about Park Shin-tae's deeds. His influence is far greater than Jiang Changing and Zhang Yanghao. But this nameless brat in front of him actually dared to challenge Pu Jingtai and even placed such a huge bet. Medicine King Group, the #1 TCM company in Huaxia. Its market value is more than 100 billion Huaxia yuan. That's more than 10 billion US dollars. DU Pharmaceuticals is not bad either. It has 300 billion won, which is more than 200 billion Huaxia yuan. Moreover, it also involves who is the source of TKM and TCM, and who is the authentic one. A world-shaking gamble, a world-shaking gamble. In an instant, everyone was shocked, and they whispered to each other. If this duel is successful, it will have a huge impact, and the stakes involved are too scary. This is too shocking. The competition between TCM and TKM has been going on for many years. Finally, it's time to decide who is better. Why does he dare to accept the challenge? Pu Jingtai's face became serious as he looked suspiciously at Jiang Tian. He wondered what kind of trump card this kid had. Grandpa, aren't you being too impulsive? This involves the shares of our DU pharmaceutical company. That's the hard work of 3 generations of our family. Pu Yunjing's face was deathly pale. In the end, Pu Jingtai had boundless confidence in his medical skills. Under everyone's gaze, he finally took a deep breath and said, "Okay, I agree to this bet." At this moment, Mo Jingrong had already hung up the phone. He walked over with a complicated expression. The higher-ups said that we're an independent academic institution, and they don't support or oppose this bet. However, it reminds us that we must be cautious. If we are not 100% confident, we must not accept the challenge. His footsteps were extremely heavy, and his voice and hands were trembling slightly. He knew that if he won this battle, he would be a great contributor and would be promoted to deputy minister when he returned. If he lost, he would be the sinner of Huaxia's traditional Chinese medicine industry and would forever be nailed to the pillar of shame in history. He grabbed Jiang Tian's hand and said, "Divine Dr. Jiang, we must not lose this time. President Mo, don't worry. Master Kang's medical skills are not something they can imagine. These South Koreans will lose miserably this time." Zhang Yanghao is very confident in Jiang Tian. Pu Jingtai's medical skills might be on par with his and Jiang Changging's, but compared to Jiang Tian's ability to bring people back from the brink of death, it was simply trash. This is only the prelude to the conference. After that, everyone took their seats and started the conference. First, a leader from the World Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organizations started the conference by talking about the origins of medicine and the purpose of the medical field. Just these topics alone took almost 40 minutes. After that, the leader announced the organizing committee for this conference and introduced the contributions made by the medical field last year, as well as the progress of the world's health industry. After the leader finished his speech, it's time for the representatives from the various countries to present their reports. Half a day passed. The organizing committee organized a sumptuous lunch, and during lunch, Mo Jingrong's phone kept ringing with calls from important figures. Some of them are leaders from the health department, some of them are experts in the medical field, and even his family and friends. Many people are paying close attention to this conference. Sigh. The debate between Divine Dr. Jiang and Park Shin-tae in the morning has spread to the entire world and Huaxia. Mo Jingrong hung up the phone and did not answer anyone's call. "If Divine Dr. Jiang loses, I will jump down from the top of the exhibition center and never return to China." In response, Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Guild leader Mo, you should prepare the money for the meal." After the simple lunch, the conference is supposed to announce TKM's successful application in the afternoon. Park Shin-tae will introduce TKM's history and recent developments, and the World Educational, scientific, and cultural organization will award relevant certificates. But after Jiang Tian's intervention, the conference's agenda was changed. Charles from the Intangible Cultural Heritage Protection Subcommittee went up to the stage to speak. The gist of it was that a new virus was discovered by the seaside in Cuba, and everyone in a fishing village died from it. Furthermore, it's highly contagious. It can spread through droplets, blood, and body fluids, and it's still spreading. After research, the experts from the Washington Medical College came up with several treatment plans, but they all failed. This new virus can't be killed. However, they found the source of the virus. It's a virus carried by a type of fish in the ocean. The fishermen in the village were infected with the virus after eating the fish. Based on the current situation, if they don't come up with an effective treatment plan, this virus will spread to the entire world in 3 months. Furthermore, the mortality rate is a terrifying 98%. Then, Charles said, when a global and catastrophic disease spreads, it's time for us medical workers to show our skills. The relevant information has already been sent to everyone, and I hope that all the experts can work together to come up with a solution. These information are all in English. Other countries have translated versions, but we're the only ones in English. They're simply bullying us. Zhang Yanghao opened the information and complained bitterly. Pu Zhengtai and the rest are really making things difficult for us. At this moment, Charles explained with a smile, because Hua Xia's TCM came too suddenly, we didn't prepare the relevant information. Furthermore, I heard that Hua Xia and TKM rely on looking, listening, questioning, and feeling the pulse to observe the patients. I believe that you guys can do it without looking at the information. They've already brought the patients? Someone asked in astonishment. Sure enough, a total of 8 patients infected with the new virus were pushed up. The patient was on his last breath and was in a deep coma. His consciousness was fuzzy, and it felt like he would die at any moment. The most terrifying thing was that his body was already festering with dense pustules. Some of them had already festered, and yellowish-red pus flowed out. It was a hair-raising sight. Because the virus was highly contagious, the patient was placed in a glass cabin. It had a built-in oxygen input and various vital signs monitoring system that looked very advanced. Let's go. Let's go up and take a look. Many medical workers rubbed their palms and went up to observe. It was said that heroes were born in troubled times, and it was the same for medical workers. This was really the time for them to make a name for themselves. The patient's heartbeat is very weak. I'm afraid that he won't be able to withstand the antiviral drugs. A professor in the field of infectious diseases said with a grave expression. We've already used the usual antiviral drugs, and it's twice the usual dosage. Someone looked at the patient's case and was at a loss. At this moment, Pu Zhengtai took a look and straightened his back. He stood with his hands behind his back and said, I can treat this disease. Yunjing, bring the medicine. Pu Yunjing immediately walked in with a bowl of medicinal concoction. The medicinal concoction looked yellow and exuded a rich medicinal fragrance. It was obvious that it was brewed with expensive medicinal herbs. He didn't even need to brew the medicine. He clearly knew about the relevant information in advance. This is cheating. Zhang Yanghao said angrily. The medicine isn't steaming. It's already cold. It's clearly prepared in advance. This is too unfair. We protest. Many doctors were so angry that their eyes turned red. At that moment, they realized that the person in charge of the Intangible Cultural Heritage Group, Charles, was in cahoots with Pu Zhengtai's family. Pu Zhengtai also smiled and said faintly, I never knew that there would be such a patient coming out. However, this medicine of mine can kill many kinds of viruses. The other party came prepared. How are we supposed to compete? This matter is uncertain. For a moment, many doctors felt uneasy and worried for Jiang Tian. Mr. Jiang, if you're so capable, choose a patient to treat. This time, I'll make you accept your defeat wholeheartedly. Pu Yunjing chose a patient, opened the glass capsule, and fed the patient the medicine. She waited quietly for any changes. Pu Zhengtai looked at Jiang Tian and said coldly, Mr. Jiang, this is our bet today. If I can cure him, it's my win. If you can cure him, it's your win. Sure. Jiang Tian's expression was calm, but he had no intention of treating the patient. Why aren't the doctors of Huaxia doing anything? The patient's condition is so serious that even Western medicine can't do anything. What can they do? But Pu Jingtai has a way. He can definitely cure the patient. This time, Chinese medicine is bound to lose. They can only become a vassal of TKM. Yeah, they can't even keep the name left behind by their ancestors. How pitiful! Soon, half an hour had passed. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian and the others and started to talk and mock them. Yeah, didn't Miracle Dr. Jiang say that he has a way? Why isn't he treating the patient? Seeing that Jiang Tian was not treating the patient, a few young doctors in the Chinese medicine team started to talk anxiously. One of them was a young female professor from Huaxia Chinese Medicine Academy called Yang Rongyan. She crossed her arms and said disdainfully, "Sai, do you really think that he has any medical skills? I've never heard of it. He's only good at talking. I heard that he was once a visiting professor in Jinling Pharmaceutical University. The Fersky Laboratory of the Medicine King Corporation was established by him." Someone still had some confidence in Jiang Tian and said, "Professor Huang Zhihui of the Fersky Laboratory won the Nobel Prize in Medicine. The laboratory's research ability can even surpass your university." Yang Rongyan smiled in disdain. "Don't you know how corrupt the universities are? The Medicine King Corporation is so rich. Isn't it easy for Jiang Tian to gain some fame? This is a halo created for the rich second generation to take over the company. Only with a reputation can people be convinced in the future." Chapter 389. If he's capable, he would have done it long ago. Why would he wait until now? It's a pity that he's putting the fate of Chinese medicine on the line just to please the crowd. He's too selfish. Hearing her words, many people became anxious. Divine Dr. Jiang can't treat him. What should we do? We're in trouble. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. Zhang Yanghao looked at Park Shengtai and said, "Mr. Park, you've been using the medicine for so long. Why isn't there any effect?" "You don't even know that? TKM is different from Western medicine. We need time to treat the symptoms and root cause. We need to wait at least 3 hours for there to be an obvious effect," Park Shengtai said mockingly. But at that moment, the patient's body suddenly spasmed. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, all the vital signs monitoring the patient's vitals beeped and the red light flashed. His heartbeat is weakening. Respiratory failure. His body temperature is dropping. His heartbeat has stopped and he's in shock. Should we resuscitate him with electric shock? Everyone exclaimed. Park Shengtai was sweating profusely. He panicked and pulled Park Yunjing aside. He whispered anxiously, "What's going on? Didn't the experiment say that it's effective?" Park Yunjing frowned and said, "This virus will mutate on its own. Usually, it will mutate once every 3 days. It seems that the virus and its characteristics have mutated, so the medicine we prepared in advance is ineffective. The patient's breathing and heart have stopped. He's dead." Someone lamented. "This virus is too strange. Western medicine has been defeated. I didn't expect TKM to fail as well. Are we just going to let this virus spread freely? Isn't this the end of the world?" Just when everyone was in despair, an indifferent voice suddenly echoed in the hall. "Is he dead? He's just faking his death. A bunch of ignorant and fearless quacks. They're no less than the white-clothed butcher." That sentence was like throwing a tantrum. It could be said that it scolded all the medical experts who tried to treat the patient. Immediately, everyone turned to look at Jiang Tian. Their eyes were burning with anger. If looks could kill, Jiang Tian would have died 100 times. Shameless boasting. If you say that Mr. Park is a quack, then what are you? You're not even a doctor. Zheng Chuha pointed at Jiang Tian and scolded. "Humph, Mr. Park doesn't have a solution, as if you have a solution. The patient's condition is very serious. This is just a normal medical accident. Murder. You're slandering me." Many TKM doctors were looking for Jiang Tian to help Pu Zhengtai. Jiang Tian, do you think you're so great? My grandfather can't do it, but you can? At least my grandfather is willing to try, but you don't even have the courage to try. You've still lost this round. Pu Yunjing put her hands on her hips and ground her fine silver teeth. Her face was full of disdain as she argued unreasonably. I have a pill that can cure all diseases. Jiang Tian smiled indifferently. With a wave of his hand, a small medicine bottle suddenly appeared. He handed it to Zhang Yanghao and said, "Feed it to them." Hiss. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. They all sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a monster. Isn't his tone too arrogant? A medicine that can cure 10,000 diseases doesn't conform to basic medical knowledge. As the saying goes, prescribing medicine to the symptoms is the same in both the East and West. A medicine can only cure a few diseases. As they spoke, Zhang Yanghao had already fed the medicine to them. According to Jiang Tian's instructions, he did not close the cabin door. At this moment, Jiang Tian took a silver needle from Shen Mange and flicked it with his fingers. Countless silver needles were shot into the acupoints of the patient who was declared dead. Is this Hua Xia's acupuncture? This is Hua Xia's flying needle technique, also known as qi manipulation. It's really qi manipulation. Look, he's not even touching the silver needles, but the silver needles are vibrating rhythmically. This is too magical. Mysterious TCM. Someone exclaimed and looked at Jiang Tian in a different light. His accuracy in identifying acupoints and his acupuncture technique is truly unparalleled. Even Yang Rongyan was dumbfounded with her eyes widened. She was born in a medical family and taught in a famous university. She was knowledgeable and knew many famous doctors. But when it came to acupuncture, Jiang Tian could be said to be unparalleled in Huaxia. She had never seen such magical acupuncture technique. This young man from Huaxia is an expert. This was the first time that Pu Jingtai had a grave expression on his face. His brows were locked together as an unprecedented sense of danger surged in his heart. He can't possibly be able to treat this patient, right? Pu Yunjing's face was as pale as paper as her hands trembled. So he does have some skills. The faces of Zheng Chuhe and many TKM supporters changed. The patient's heart has recovered. The patient is breathing. He's awake. He's opening his eyes. Everyone exclaimed in disbelief. Under Jiang Tian's magical acupuncture technique, the patient actually opened his eyes and his heartbeat became stronger. Then, everyone saw a shocking scene. The patient's festering skin was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The skin was bright and clean as if it was reborn. Oh my God! The wound is healing at such a speed. This is too terrifying. A miracle! This is definitely a miracle in the history of medicine. No, even a miracle can't be described. This is a miracle. Only a God can do this. Oh my God, what did I just see? Unbelievable. Could it be that the omnipotent God has descended? The entire venue was filled with exclamations. Everyone looked at the magical scene in shock as they looked at Jiang Tian, who was standing with his hands behind his back. Half an hour later, all the patient's skin was healed and they stood up one by one. Oh my God, where am I? Am I dead? Many patients asked in disbelief as they looked at their bodies that seemed to have been reborn. You're already healed because you've met the real God. Many Western medicine doctors said with a smile. Old Master Jiang, today, Divine Dr. Jiang defeated TKM and saved Chinese medicine by himself. He's famous in the international medical community. Zhang Yanghao looked at Jiang Tian's back with respect as if he was looking at a god. Yeah, not bad. Jiang Changing nodded proudly. He had always been modest and polite, but he couldn't suppress the pride in his heart at this moment. That's my grandson, you know. Divine Dr. Jiang is indeed a divine doctor. He did it. He actually did it. Emo Jingrong shed tears of excitement. That's amazing. In the history of Chinese medicine in Huaxia, there has never been such an amazing doctor. He's a god. Yang Rongyan's impression of Jiang Tian had completely changed. He was dumbfounded. That's amazing. This is the miracle of Chinese medicine. Many Chinese medicine doctors hugged each other, jumping, crying, and laughing. Tears flew everywhere, but they were tears of joy, tears of pride, and tears of excitement. They could hold their heads high. Did you see that? Chinese medicine isn't bad at all. Chinese medicine shouldn't die out. Did you see that? Chinese medicine is such a precious treasure. It's a loss for the world to reject Chinese medicine. Did you see that? Chinese medicine is better. Chinese medicine is the source of TKM and Chinese medicine. There were even people who looked at the representatives of Western medicine, Korean medicine, Eastern Chinese medicine, and other medical schools and shouted with tears in their eyes. They were almost screaming. This was a form of catharsis. After all, Chinese medicine had been suppressed by TKM for too long. The world only knew about TKM, but not Chinese medicine. TKM had plagiarized the essence of TCM, but they refused to admit it and set up another mountain. They even wanted to apply for the World Heritage Site. They even inverted the truth and slandered TKM as the source of TCM. They were simply forgetting their ancestors. Chinese medicine is indeed amazing. It's like a miracle. Many Western medicine and Chinese medicine doctors nodded and sighed. Mr. Zhang's medical skills are like a god. It's beyond the limits of human knowledge. It has already explored an unknown territory. Experts from more than 50 countries around the world bowed slightly to Jiang Tian, expressing their utmost respect to this medical expert. He cured me. Park Xingtai's expression changed drastically. Shock, defeat, dejection, humiliation, anger, and hatred flashed across his face. But in the end, his expression darkened. He lowered his head and was about to leave. At that moment, Jiang Tian looked at Park Xingtai and said coldly, "Mr. Park, are you in such a hurry to leave?" Mo Jingrong even reached out to block his path and said, "Mr. Park Xingtai, have you forgotten your bet with divine Dr. Jiang? There are so many witnesses and media at the scene. This matter is of great importance. We respect UNESCO's decision." Park Xingtai's face was covered in sweat. Park Yunjing looked at Charles for help. Charles stood up and walked slowly to the stage. He pondered for a while and said, "It's obvious that Mr. Zhang's treatment is better than Park Xingtai's in this competition." Park Yunjing frowned. Could it be that this old bastard is going to eat his fill and not admit it? "You said that you would help me." But the next moment, Charles changed the topic and said with a smile, "As for whether Mr. Jiang won or not, we can't make a hasty decision. But isn't it obvious? Yeah, the patient can stand up. After testing, the virus in her body has disappeared." Many Chinese medicine doctors were indignant. First of all, did Mr. Jiang use pure Chinese medicine? We all know that Chinese medicine is known for treating symptoms and root causes. But at the same time, the effect is very slow. It usually takes dozens of days to take effect. But the effect of Mr. Jiang's medicine is so fast and obvious. So, Mr. Jiang's medicine needs to be tested. Charles said calmly. What? He said that Mr. Jiang used Western medicine? But is there any Western medicine in the world that has such a good effect? That's slander. That's slander. Many Chinese medicine doctors were so angry that they almost fainted. They shouted loudly, "If you disturb the order of the venue again, I'll ask the security to kick you out." Charles said arrogantly, "Let him speak." Jiang Tian said calmly, "Second of all, even if Mr. Jiang used pure Chinese medicine and traditional Chinese medicine, does this mean that Mr. Jiang's medical skills are better than Mr. Park Xingtai's? There's an old saying in Huaxia, horses have messed up hooves, and people make mistakes. It means that even the best person will make mistakes. I believe that Mr. Park Xingtai just made a mistake, and Mr. Jiang just happened to encounter a case that he's good at." Charles said with an elegant demeanor, "So, this doesn't prove that Mr. Jiang's medical skills are better than Mr. Park Xingtai's." Chapter 390. When everyone heard this, they were enraged. They wanted nothing more than to rush onto the stage and tear Charles into pieces. This is simply bullying. There's no justice in this world. They've already colluded. They've already colluded. When we didn't win, they said that TCM is inferior to TKM. But now that we've won, they said that the competition is invalid. They can do whatever they want and ignore the facts. Are they trying to bully our Huaxia? This is too much. Many TCM physicians were so angry that they teared up. They were so angry that their chests were about to explode. Mo Jingrong's face was flushed red as he spoke in fluent English. Mr. Charles, I've raised a serious protest and strong dissatisfaction with UNESCO. This is unfair. Only Jiang Tian said calmly, Mr. Charles, even if I beat Park Shengtai, it can't prove that traditional Chinese medicine is better than traditional Chinese medicine, nor can it prove that traditional Chinese medicine is the source of traditional Chinese medicine. Do you still want to continue the application? You can understand it that way. Charles casually shrugged as his calm and dignified voice resounded throughout the venue. This is just a competition between the two of you. It can't prove the superiority of TKM and TCM. I believe that we should look at TKM from a broader perspective. It's the treasure of the Korean nation, and it should be a precious heritage of the world. Enough! Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to listen to his nonsense and directly interrupted. Charles immediately announced that TKM's application has failed. Pak Shengtai, Pak Yunjing, immediately announced that TKM is a part of TCM, or change your name to TCM. Otherwise, I'll ruin your reputation and make you beg for death. Mr. Jiang, are you joking? Charles was at a loss whether to cry or laugh as he looked at Jiang Tian. He didn't feel anything in his heart and even felt like laughing. He was an official of UNESCO, and he had the final say in the application. His position was transcendent, and the appointment could only be made after careful consideration by the leader of UNESCO. But this brat actually dared to boast so shamelessly, saying that he would ruin his reputation. Seeing Charles's attitude, Pak Yunjing knew that TKM would definitely win this round. Like a high and mighty princess, she looked down at Jiang Tian and sneered, Mr. Jiang, do you know that this is already considered a personal threat? I can sue you. But I also understand the feelings of a loser, so I won't bicker with you. Mr. Jiang, you heard what Mr. Charles said. Daewoo Pharmaceutical Company will not give it to you either. Because I also suspect that you are cheating. You are using Western medicine. Pu Zhengtai stood with his hands behind his back and sneered. This is obviously an illegal bet. If he insists on snatching it, then let's go to court. Zheng Chuha also sneered in agreement. Their family clans can do whatever they want in South Korea. The judicial department had long been connected. Jiang Tian wanting to take away Daewoo Pharmaceutical was simply a fool's dream. Hee, they really don't know what's good for them. Mange, let them see. Jiang Tian smiled. Yes. Shen Mange immediately went to the multimedia system next to the rostrum. He took out a USB drive and inserted it into the computer. Immediately, a video was played on the big screen. What is she doing? Is she going to talk about the origin of Chinese medicine? Will it work? I have the final say in this place. Charles casually took a sip of tea and did not even turn his head. He was confident that he had Jiang Tian and the rest in his grasp. However, the next moment, he saw Pu Yunjing's expression change drastically, and he also heard a voice that scared him out of his wits. Beautiful Ms. Pu, the application for TKM has been approved. You only need to announce it at the venue tomorrow. But you have to fulfill your promise. Charles, I said that I will not mistreat you. Daewoo Pharmaceutical Company issued bearer bonds with a face value of $2 million USD. The liquidity in the market is very good, and you can exchange them at any financial institution. Charles instantly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. His hair stood on end as if he had heard the whispers of the devil. Damn it! Turn off the video! He rushed toward Shen Mange like a brown bear and pushed Shen Mange's chest. Slap. Shen Mange raised her hand and gave Charles a big slap on his face, which sent him flying 5 meters away. Charles fell to the ground and shouted, Security! Staff, get the computer back. What are you waiting for? Hurry up. Pu Yunjing also quickly ordered the bodyguards behind her. It was almost time for the key plot. Several security guards from the organizing committee and the Park family's private bodyguards rushed toward Shen Mange, punching and kicking. However, they were just ordinary people. How could they be Shen Mange's opponents? Shen Mange's fingers hit the air and knocked down one after another, making them all lose their fighting strength. Ms. Pu is a very trustworthy businesswoman. But the conditions you mentioned before don't seem to be just these, right? Of course I didn't forget. Then there was the sound of violent breathing. The high-definition and censored brawl on the big screen was very exciting. 18 positions were unlocked one after another. Obscenities, lewd laughter, and color, smell, and taste were all present. Dumbfounded, everyone looked at Charles and then looked at Pu Yunjing. They only felt that it could be said that it was the most exciting drama they had ever experienced in their lives. At this time, they suddenly understood why Jiang Tian was so overbearing. It turned out that he had such a terrible bomb. It was no exaggeration to say that this bomb could not only blow up the results of the application of TKM by Park Shengtai's family, but also destroy UNESCO. Many years later, when everyone drank a glass of wine in the bar and recalled the young man who made a scene at the application of TKM, they could not help but shake their heads and sigh. They gave a thumbs up and praised, "That Hua Xia kid is simply too ruthless. This is the biggest scandal in the history of our UNESCO. Charles is the biggest shame in our history." The officials of UNESCO were all livid. They looked at Charles as if they could kill him. Turn off the power. Pu Yunjing only felt dizzy. Her face was red, green, and white, and finally became completely pale. She was paler than a dead person who had been dead for 3 days. Her delicate body was trembling. "Why don't you finish watching such an exciting plot?" Jiang Tian smiled and flicked his fingers. The bodyguards of Park Shengtai's family stood there motionless as if they were immobilized. The T-18 scene was still going on. It was quite explosive. The reporters were all excited. They aimed their cameras at the big screen and aimed at Pu Yunjing, Charles, and the other parties involved. "This is absolutely explosive. Charles from UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage Protection Group actually slept with Pu Yunjing. Scandal. It's definitely a big scandal, big news. Not only was there monetary bribery, but there was also sexual bribery. Oh my God. It turns out that they even plagiarized the patent of Medicine King Group. Charles even wanted to help them hide it from the world. This is too shocking. Shady. It's too shady." To them, they only wanted to see the world in chaos. If there was no accident, there would be no story and no news. This was definitely a huge scandal, a huge accident. If it was reported, it would definitely ignite the whole world. "Yunjing, I really didn't expect." Zheng Chua's face was pale as his eyes were about to split apart. His whole body was trembling violently. He never expected that the goddess he admired would be so obscene behind his back. She had just agreed to be his girlfriend that night, but she turned around and slept with Charles. This made him feel deep despair, humiliation, and anger. "Chuha, this is the only time Pu Yunjing knew that tonight, she and her TKM and Korean medicine business were completely finished. Even her love was over." 2 crystal-clear tears silently slid down Zheng Chua's face. He closed his eyes, but Pu Yunjing's coquettish and ear-piercing voice still echoed in his ears. He was devoted to Pu Yunjing and protected her like a loyal dog. A few years ago, Park Shengtai's family made a mistake in expanding, and the capital chain was almost broken. He took out more than 201 from his family as an interest-free loan to the Park family. This directly caused him to be impeached by the board of directors, and he almost lost his position as the CEO. But now, Pu Yunjing actually treated him like this. He suddenly raised his hand and slapped Pu Yunjing's face as he roared, "Bastard! Bitch! If it weren't for me and the support of modern industry, how could you, Pu Yunjing, be where you are today?" Following that, he grabbed Pu Yunjing's hair with one hand and slapped her face again and again. He said angrily, "But how did you treat me? Do you think I'm a toy?" Chapter 391. I was just putting on a show. Pu Yunjing helplessly defended herself as she gave a lame excuse that even she did not believe. For a moment, the scene was in chaos. Pu Yunjing's cries and begging for mercy, Zheng Chua's cursing and beating, Pu Zhengtai's persuasion, Cui Juanxi's scream, and Charles's screams all joined together and soared into the sky. Suddenly, the sound from the stereo stopped, and the image froze. The video ended. At this moment, one of the highest-ranking officials from UNESCO walked up to the stage and said with regret and shame on his face, "Everyone, it's clear that there's a despicable academic corruption in UNESCO, and there's also a serious unfairness in TKM's World Heritage application. I would like to express my deepest apologies to all the medical workers in the world, especially to Hua Xia's TCM." He bowed deeply under the flashing lights and countless reporters taking photos. He remained bowed for half a minute before he straightened his back. "After an emergency discussion, we have decided to remove Mr. Charles from his position in UNESCO. Furthermore, TKM's World Heritage application has failed." What? Charles felt as if he was struck by lightning as he lowered his head in despair. He knew that his academic career was over, and no academic institution would accept him. This was a loss that he could not bear. Furthermore, he had no idea how to face his wife and children. They would definitely know about this matter, right? This, as if he was struck by lightning, Pak Yong-tae's body froze and his face instantly turned pale as he begged, "President Kissinger, the development of our TKM in recent years is obvious to all." President Kissinger did not even look at him as he looked at the representative of TCM with anticipation and smiled. "Everyone, we have finally witnessed the miracles of TCM today. It's truly worthy of being the treasure of Hua Xia's civilization with 5,000 years of history. We look forward to TCM's World Heritage application, and we also hope that TCM can succeed." Many TKM doctors were like frosted eggplants. They were completely listless as they lowered their prideful heads with dejection written all over their faces. "That's great. That's great. TKM deserves this outcome for plagiarizing TCM's achievements. He deserves it. We support UNESCO's fair decision." This Hua Xia gathering is the first victory of those South Korean plagiarists. Both the Dragon Boat Festival and Li Bai were stolen by them. Today, TKM's application for the World Heritage Site finally failed. This means that plagiarism won't work. On the other hand, the Chinese medicine practitioners of Hua Xia were so excited that their faces turned red. They clapped and cheered, jumping up and down happily. That is to say, the application of traditional Chinese medicine to the World Heritage Site is successful. There is basically no escape. Everyone was talking about it. Well, since the president of UNESCO has spoken, it means that he absolutely agrees. Next, it's just a procedure. Zhang Yanghao nodded happily and looked at Mo Jingrong. However, he found that Mo Jingrong had turned his head away. His eyes were slightly red, and he was secretly wiping his tears. Wiping his tears, Mo Jingrong looked at Jiang Tian with gratitude and sighed. "This time, I have to thank divine physician Jiang. He has single-handedly pushed Chinese medicine to the international stage. He is a great contributor to the development of Chinese medicine. Since the founding of the People's Republic of China, there is no one who can compare to him in terms of the development of traditional Chinese medicine." Everyone's gazes landed on Jiang Tian in unison. He stood there indifferently with his hands behind his back. His gaze and expression were extremely calm, without the slightest ripple. It was as if all of this was within his expectations. It was as if doing such a shocking feat was as easy as casually sweeping away a cloud of dust. Everyone agreed with him. In fact, Jiang Tian did not have much involvement in the Chinese medicine industry. He only did 2 or 3 things, and they were enough to leave a mark in history. First, Jiang Tian built the Fersky Laboratory and developed the theory and technology of extracting TCM ultramicromolecules with Huang Zhihui. This gave birth to Hua Xia's first Nobel Prize in medicine. Second, under Jiang Tian's plan, the Jiang family launched a new product and became the first modern Chinese medicine enterprise worth over 10 million renminbi. Lastly, The counterattack today was to defeat TKM's scheme of applying for the World Heritage Site and restore TCM's reputation. It might sound like a simple task, but when he thought about it carefully, it was practically an impossible task for TKM to complete. Regardless of Pak Chung-tae's medical skills, Pak Yunjing and Charles's secret alliance, or Pak Chung-tae's family's influence in South Korea, they are all unshakable. But none of these things can be shaken. In front of Jiang Tian, they were like paper dolls or sandcastles. With a wave of his hand, they shattered and collapsed. Among them, whether it was Jiang Tian's superb medical skills, his eloquence in the battle of words, or his terrifying scheming in taking out the video in the end, none of them could compare to him. They were all in awe of him. What is this called? This is called being annihilated in the blink of an eye. Someone sighed. That's right. This is too awesome. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian in unison, not knowing how to sigh for a moment. After that, President Kissinger announced the end of the meeting, and everyone left the venue. During the whole process, many judges, officials, and medical experts from all over the world shook hands with Jiang Tian and Hua Xia's TCM doctors and invited them for an academic exchange. As for Park Chung-tae and the other TKM doctors, they did not even look at them. Many people know this. After this battle, TKM's decades of hard work will be destroyed, and the world will abandon them. As for TCM, it will go global and step onto the world's medical stage. Park Chung-tae, you better remember to fulfill your end of the bet. Don't wait for me to take away your DU pharmaceutical company's assets. I don't have time for that. You better come to me yourself. Jiang Tian smiled and left. Do you think I will give up? Park Chung-tae's face turned pale, and he waved his arms angrily. No. Tim did not lose. I, Park Chung-tae, did not lose. You will not get what you want. This is South Korea, not Hwaseong. This is not a place where you TCM doctors can do whatever you want. This incident spread like wildfire throughout South Korea, Hwaseong, and the rest of the world. Many media outlets were present at the scene, and they reported on this incident. Soon, this incident became the headlines of many media outlets. This is simply too heaven-defying. Hwaseong's TCM is amazing. Many medical professors and researchers were studying that magical video, and they were shocked by it. This is the best way to show our country's strength. That's right. He had foiled the Koreans' conspiracy. This is awesome. Many Chinese physicians were elated. Miracle Dr. Jiang Tian had become a national hero in everyone's hearts. Although the South Korean government had restricted Park Yunjing's video and asked the reporters to delete it out of humanitarian reasons, the sex bribery scandal still spread. I thought TKM is amazing, but it turns out it was all because of selling its body. TCM is the source of TKM and is the best. We must choose TCM in the future and reject TKM. TKM is cheating the world and plagiarizing TCM's achievements. We must boycott them. They are thieves and we must chase them out of our cities. Places like Washington, New York, London, etc. have strong IP protection. Many citizens are disgusted by Park Yunjing's sexual bribery and TKM's actions. Some people even took action. They put up banners in front of TKM's clinics and protested loudly. Soon, TKM is like a rat on the street, and everyone wants to beat it up. Even in more chaotic cities like New York and Detroit, there were even cases of hooligans taking advantage of the situation and looting Korean medical centers. So, Mr. Jiang went to Silver Hall to do this. This is amazing. At 8 p.m., Li Huiyan, who was dressed to the nines, saw the news and was shocked. Even though she did not follow this incident, many of her friends in the entertainment industry are following this incident. They know she is in South Korea and forwarded the news to her. They even asked her to get Jiang Tian's autograph. She was even a little regretful that she should have followed Jiang Tian to the Silver Hall in the morning, because Yin Dongyuan brought her around his company like he was showing off his wealth, but they didn't reach any cooperation. I wonder if Jiang Tian will reply to me if I contact him now. Li Huiyan thought to herself. Li Huiyan knows there is no need to trouble two people for the same thing. If she wants to cooperate in South Korea, She will either not hug Jiang Tian's thigh or hug Jiang Tian's thigh. This showed his trust and loyalty to a person. Li Huiyan had left with Yin Dongyuan in the morning, and it will be taboo for her to look for Jiang Tian again. Are you talking about that Mr. Jiang we met in the Silver Hall this morning? Yin Dongyuan asked with a smile. Yes. Li Huiyan immediately keeps her phone. He is in trouble. Yin Dongyuan swirled his wineglass and said, he might not even be able to walk out of South Korea alive. Chapter 392. What did you say? Li Huiyan asked in disbelief. Mr. Jiang is very famous in Huaxia, and he has a terrifying influence in South and East China. Don't tell me that you guys want to make a move. It's a pity that he is in Huaxia. Yin Dongyuan smiled and replied in disdain, no wonder you wanted to follow him this morning. So it turns out that he's the young master of the Medicine King Corporation. I didn't know about it before, and I only found out about it after watching the news today. But you should be glad that you did not go with him. If you went with him, you might be a corpse by now. But Li Huiyan's heart was pounding. Yin Dongyuan shook his head. The Park family had suffered a great loss this time, and Park Yunjing had hired a hitman to make a move. Furthermore, you should know that this is a national humiliation for South Korea. All the government will support the Park family. How can you guys do this? Li Huiyan's heart sank as she took out her phone to call Jiang Tian to remind him to be careful. Seeing this, Yin Dongyuan snatched her phone and said with a dark face, Ms. Li, you better respect yourself and make a choice that suits you. Don't get yourself into trouble. Give me back my phone. Li Huiyan snapped and tried to snatch her phone back. Yin Dongyuan placed the phone into the ice bucket filled with red wine. The phone was soaked, and the screen turned black. Shrugging his shoulders, Yin Dongyuan smiled. Now that your phone is broken, we should enjoy this wonderful night together. You can't save him and no one can save him. You're shameless. Li Huiyan said angrily. Let's go. Accompany me to meet my friends. They will be beneficial to you. Yin Dongyuan was not angry and laughed. Furthermore, you will meet the palace master of Tanjun Taoist Palace later. I heard that she is looking for a music teacher, and your singing is pretty good. Do you know what it means if you become her music teacher? I don't care. I'm leaving. Li Huiyan waved her hand and left. She wanted to find a phone to inform Jiang Tian. Yin Dongyuan grabbed her wrist and pulled her into his arms. He said coldly, don't you know how influential you are in Huaxia? You don't even have the chance to work with the South Korean film industry, let alone those big productions. Do you know what it means to come with me? Please maintain your gentlemanly demeanor. Show some respect and let me go. Li Huiyan pulled with all her strength, leaving a few bruises on her wrist, but she couldn't get rid of his hand. Respect. Yin Dongyuan smiled coldly and said, don't pretend to be noble and virtuous. Everyone knows the rules of this circle. Don't pretend to be virtuous. If you want to get those resources, you have to accompany me tonight. If not, I can ban you from South Korea, and you will not be able to get any roles. Since they had shed all pretense of cordiality, Yin Dongyuan might as well reveal his true intentions and threaten them verbally. Hearing this, Li Huiyan's face turned pale. She knew that Yin Dongyuan was not trying to scare her. He definitely had the ability to do so. Right at this moment, a cold shout was heard, You stupid club, what are you pulling and pulling for? Yin Dongyuan looked up. Jiang Tian, who was dressed in casual clothes, walked in with Li Fuzhen Yiziwei and Shen Mange, the three beauties, swaying and sloppily walking in. Jiang Tian, why are you here? Seizing the opportunity when Yin Dongyuan was stunned, Li Huiyan abruptly struggled free, and she disregarded the bloody mark left on her white wrist as she walked quickly to Jiang Tian's side and said in a low voice, They want to harm you, I know. Jiang Tian replied calmly. After the medical exchange conference ended in the afternoon, assassins had been tailing them when they left the convention center. But Li Fuzhen also has about 8 bodyguards with her, and the assassins did not have the chance to make a move. Jiang Tian does not want to attend the banquet as he wants to leave South Korea. But when he heard from Li Fuzhen that Park Chung-tae's family might appear at the banquet to recruit supporters, he decided to join them. Yin Dongyuan saw 4 beauties with Jiang Tian, and one of them is the eldest princess of the Xinyue Li family. He was jealous. "Ms. Li, please maintain your demeanor. Don't make me use violence." He grabbed Li Huiyan's arm again and tried to snatch her away from Jiang Tian. The other guests turned a blind eye to this. They raised their champagne glasses and chatted nonchalantly. In high society gatherings, it is common for women to have conflicts with rich young masters. Unless a rich young lady like Li Fuzhen is a model, she is just a plaything for the rich and powerful. Furthermore, this convention center belongs to Yin Dongyuan's family, and the security guards listen to him. Who dares to interfere? Who can interfere with his actions? Li Fuzhen could not stand it anymore and shouted, "Yin Dongyuan, you are too much. Stop it." "Li Fuzhen, this has nothing to do with you." Yin Dongyuan snorted and glanced at her. Xinyue Li family is more powerful than Ledian Entertainment, but Yin Dongyuan is the heir of Ledian Entertainment. The heir of Xinyue Li family is the mysterious Li Yinxin. Perhaps when Li Jianxi and Li Yinxin appeared, he needed to be cautious and courteous. However, as for Li Fuzhen, he really didn't care. "You're so rude. You've lost the demeanor of the upper class," Li Fuzhen angrily reprimanded. 3 days ago, I had brought her to 4 film companies, investors, and introduced 5 directors to her. Yin Dongyuan replied disdainfully. "Do you think all these are free? Do you think she does not know the rules of the industry and the price she is about to pay? Now she stood me up. Does she think I am an idiot?" Li Huiyan's face turned pale, and she lowered her head, not daring to look into Jiang Tian's eyes. Actually, she had never agreed to this kind of deal, but she was also worried that Jiang Tian would think that she was the kind of person who relied on her body to climb up the ranks. "He'll probably despise me and ignore me in the future." Li Fuzhen looked at Jiang Tian helplessly. If she is Jiang Tian's woman, or even his friend, she will help him. But now, she feels that this vase is not qualified to be Jiang Tian's friend. Just when Li Huiyan is in despair, Jiang Tian said calmly, "You idiot! You don't know what's going on." "What did you say?" Yin Dongyuan's eyes turned red, and he gritted his teeth. This brat is too arrogant. His words are all about idiots, just like what the rumors say. He stepped on Zheng Chuha and Pu Yunjing in the morning, and now he wants to step on me? Idiot! Your hearing is too bad. Jiang Tian took a glass of champagne from Li Fuzhen and looked down at Yin Dongyuan. "Li Huiyan is willing to act in your movie, and she is giving you all face. You're really a toad lusting after a swan's meat." Li Huiyan looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. She was filled with gratitude. She didn't think that Jiang Tian would be willing to speak up for her, and in such a domineering manner. Yin Dongyuan was so angry that his liver trembled. "You're twisting words and forcing logic. Everyone knows that our South Korean film industry is more developed than yours. She made use of my resources and she has to pay the price. Get lost." Li Fuzhen saw Jiang Tian's attitude and immediately points at Yin Dongyuan. "How dare you speak to Master Kong in this manner? Are you seeking death?" "Miss Li, Mr. Yin, what is going on?" When Li Fuzhen spoke to Yin Dongyuan again, a few big shots from the entertainment industry came over to ask about the situation. Yin Dongyuan can bully a Huaxia celebrity like Li Huiyan, but it is a big deal when Li Fuzhen is involved. If Li Fuzhen bullies Yin Dongyuan, the entire South Korean film industry will be embarrassed. That's why they came over to help Yin Dongyuan. These few big shots from the entertainment industry are famous investors and directors. One of them, Yin Digwe, had won South Korea's Golden Bell Award for Best Director and an Oscar Award. He had won countless awards, and his hands are sore. Yin Dongyuan started to tell Li Huiyan about how she seduced him and is willing to spend a few nights with him to introduce investors to him. But Yin Dongyuan abhorred such behavior and sternly refused. Now, Li Huiyan brought her assistant and friends to pester and threaten him. You are slandering me." Li Huiyan almost cried when she heard what Yin Digwe said. Yin Digwe laughed. "Huaxia's film industry is filthy, and I did not expect Miss Li to bring these bad habits to our South Korea. Damn it. Yin Digui looks at Li Huiyen coldly and sneered. I am representing the South Korean film industry to announce that we will ban Miss Li Huiyen forever. Please leave. You all are bullying me. What right do you all have to ban me? Li Huiyen cried. Because Mr. Yin Digui is South Korea's most famous director and the president of South Korea's Film and Television Association. Yin Dongyuan laughed and said with a dark expression, Miss Li Huiyen, if you are willing to come to my villa in West Water Cave tonight to apologize to me, I might ask Mr. Yin Digui to take back his order. Yin Dongyuan is determined to get what he wants. He does not believe Li Huiyen is willing to give up the South Korean market and opportunities. He had played this kind of trick too many times, and it worked every time. No one could withstand this kind of terrifying pressure. Many South Korean film industry moguls are looking at Li Huiyen like a cat playing with a mouse. I will not apologize to you. Dream on. Li Huiyen took a deep breath and said coldly. Yin Dongyuan's face froze and he laughed. Have you considered it carefully? Do you know what you are rejecting? If I am willing, we will let you win the Big Bell Award soon. Li Huiyen looked at Jiang Tian and said firmly. I know, but I refuse. Are you retarded? Yin Dongyuan asked in disbelief. You are the one who is retarded. Jiang Tian laughed. What's so great about the Big Bell Award? What's so great about the Oscars? It's like trash. You think you can fool girls with this thing and these ridiculous chips? You're really confident. What a joke. Chapter 393. Why are you glaring at me? I'm teaching you how to pick up girls. Ignoring Yin Dongyuan's flushed face, Jiang Tian said unhurriedly, Let me tell you, if you want to chase a girl, you have to put in a lot of money. You have to use real money. Taking out $1 billion or so to buy a yacht and give it away, that's what you call sincerity and courage. Someone like you, who doesn't even want to spend a single drop of blood to win a girl's heart, you're really poor. A toad lusting after a swan's flesh. Good. Very good. You dare to pick on me? I will make you regret it. Yin Dongyuan's face was ashen, and then he pointed at Jiang Tian with a hideous grin and said loudly, Everyone, this is our highest level of celebration, the gathering place of many high-ranking officials, rich people and famous people. But why is there a doctor from Huaxia here? She's a scammer. She even slandered our Tikim's doctor. In an instant, everyone's gazes shot over. There was some disdain, some hatred, and some hostility. Li Huiyen's face turned red. At the same time, Park Yong-tae stepped forward and pointed at Jiang Tian. He's the one who slandered our TKM and caused our application to fail. He's the enemy of the entire country. Oh, so he's the one who started a war with our TKM and messed up our application. That girl from Huaxia not only offended Yin Dongyuan, but she's also with the culprit. She's in trouble now. Yin Dongyuan is a vengeful person, and he's hard to deal with. Now that she's with this doctor from Huaxia, it's the same as going against the entire South Korea. She will be torn to pieces. Many tycoons, high-ranking officials, and celebrities in South Korea looked at Jiang Tian and Li Huiyen with mockery, sympathy, and gloating. Yin Dongyuan, Park Yong-tae? Are you trying to chase me out? Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, Pujing, you idiot. I originally wanted to let you off, but you sent assassins to tail me. Now, you even came here to deliver your head to me recklessly. Looks like I have no choice but to kill you. On the side, Li Fuzhen crossed his arms and sneered, the contempt in his eyes overflowing. In many people's eyes, Jiang Tian was Li Fuzhen's friend. The darker ones might even associate him with a boy toy. But in reality, Jiang Tian was the backer of Xingyue Li family, Tanjun's faction, and the South Korean government. Yin Dongyuan and Park Jung-tae were just two scumbags. How dare they challenge Jiang Tian? They must be tired of living. So what if I kick you out? Yin Dongyuan pointed at Jiang Tian and barked arrogantly, Those who can attend Tanjun's celebration are all members of South Korea's upper society. Not a single Huaxia was invited. What right do you have to sneak in? Get out of here. He had vaguely heard that there was a peerless expert called Kong Taechu who had repelled the Japanese experts and saved Lord Tanjuan's lineage. It was said that even the palace master of the Tanjun Taoist palace, Li Jinju, treated him like a god, and even the president had to bow down to him. This was a high-class gathering, but the enemy of TKM was here. Wasn't he here to cause trouble? Do you know that Tanjun's celebration is to welcome me, Kong Taechu? Jiang Tian smiled. On the side, Li Huiyan's face suddenly changed as she looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. She had heard of Kong Taechu's name many times in Hua Xia's upper society gatherings. They addressed him as Master Kong, saying that he could fly, control lightning, condense energy into weapons, and even drive ghosts. But she never expected that the Master Kong they were talking about was her high school classmate, the Master Kong Jiang Tian that Bai Chofei mentioned. What are you joking about? That person's name is Kong Taechu, and he's from South Korea. How could he be a Huasian? Yin Dongyuan laughed so hard that his teeth almost fell off. He was too far away from the Tanjun Taoist palace, and he didn't have access to the core secrets. Furthermore, the surname Jiang was a prominent surname in South Korea. With his twisted pride, he naturally thought that Kong Taechu was from South Korea. Ha, you guys are really plagiarizing experts. You said that Li Bai and Chu Yuan are from your country, and Chinese medicine is from your country. Now, I'm from your country. Jiang Tian didn't feel anything in his heart, and he even felt like laughing. Tanjun Taoist Palace's new palace master, Li Jinju, South Korea's president, Lu Wuxuan, and Star Moon Group's president, Li Jianxi. Korean Residential Group's chairman, Choi Myung-do, and Hyundai Industries chairman. Greetings, Mr. Kong Taechu. It was also at this moment that a loud singing voice resounded throughout the entire venue. Everyone's face changed, and they turned around. Li Jinju, who was wearing a golden crown and a red gown, was walking down the spiral staircase from a high building, surrounded by important figures. Li Jinju was like a queen as she led a group of people down the stairs. Under everyone's disbelieving gaze, she walked up to Jiang Tian and bowed respectfully. Greetings, Grandmaster Jiang. I, Jin Zhu, lead the South Korean government officials and businessmen. Li Jinju bowed down gracefully, lowering her noble head and crawling in front of Jiang Tian. Her smooth forehead lightly touched Jiang Tian's shoes. Behind her, Li Jianxi also knelt on the ground. Many tycoons and government officials followed suit. Only Lu Wuxuan didn't kneel. However, he still bowed deeply to Jiang Tian to show his respect to this peerless overlord who had saved the Tanjun family and the spirit of South Korea. He is Kong Taechu? Yin Dongyuan was shocked as if he had seen a ghost. Oh my god! Park Shengtai's face turned pale. He clutched his chest and stumbled backward. He was almost scared to death. Suddenly, he realized that he had been abandoned by the Tanjun Taoist Palace from the very beginning. He was given to Kong Taechu by the Tanjun Taoist Palace as a stepping stone for him to promote Chinese medicine to the international market. He was a living target to showcase the strength of Chinese medicine. A thought appeared in his mind. The Park family is finished, and Daewoo Pharmaceuticals can't be saved either. Who is Kong Taechu? Yin Digui asked the tycoon beside him in confusion. No one answered him. He seemed to be a famous director with a great reputation. However, he was only the head of an opera troupe in the upper-class society. He was not worth mentioning. Moreover, they knew that this person had offended Kong Taechu, and his career as an artist was about to end. All right, Jinju, get up. Jiang Tian helped Li Jinju to her feet, and Li Jinju held his arm as they walked upstairs. When they walked past Park Shengtai and Yin Dongyuan, Jiang Tian said calmly, "Those two are not allowed to appear in South Korea." Then he walked past them and continued walking. Many high-ranking officials and tycoons looked at the two of them sympathetically. They knew that the two of them and their families were finished. The Chue family of Korea and the Zheng family of Hyundai Industries had received the news before the banquet because they were close to Li Jianxi. That was why Zheng Chuhe and Chue Juanxi avoided them. However, the Park family and the Yin family did not receive any news. They did not even have the right to talk to Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was the backer of the Tanjun family. Even the South Korean government needed his help. That was because Tan Yong's faction was the only superpower in South Korea. Now that it had fallen, many of its officials and tycoons were exposed to the claws of the world's superpowers. Only Jiang Tiankai could protect him. The current Jiang Tian could annihilate Pu Jingtai's family and Yin family with a single sentence, let alone just killing 2 people. When they arrived at the second-floor banquet hall, Lu Wuxuan raised his wine glass and proposed a toast to Jiang Tian. Mr. Jiang, thank you for saving the Tanjun family and teaching the palace lord of the Dao Palace a peerless skill. Let me propose a toast to the great Mr. Jiang. A toast to the great Mr. Jiang. All the members of the South Korean upper-class society raised their glasses and toasted Jiang Tian. Beside him, Li Huiyan was shocked. The president of South Korea, the head of the Xingyue Li family, the chairman of Hyundai Industries, the president of Hyundai Industries. Why are they all so respectful to him? Because he is a godlike man. Li Jianxi said slowly. Kang Taechu had become a force to be reckoned with. He alone could suppress an entire country. Superpowers like the United States, Japan, Russia, and the European Union might not be afraid of Kang Taechu, but small countries like South Korea and Singapore could only rely on Kang Taechu. Mr. Li is right. Mr. Jiang is the savior of all South Koreans. He is the hero of South Korea. The people around him nodded in agreement. Li Huiyan couldn't believe what she was seeing. But she knew she had made the right choice today. She might finally be qualified to ride on Jiang Tian's coattails. In the next few days, Li Huiyan felt Jiang Tian's power. He was like a god. Yi Ziwei didn't speak Korean well, and Shen Mange didn't understand Korean at all. Li Huiyan, on the other hand, had learned Korean in order to enter the South Korean entertainment industry. So, she acted as the translator during the process of taking over Daewoo Pharmaceutical. All the departments in South Korea cooperated with Yi Ziwei. The chiefs, secretaries, chairmen, and CEOs were like subordinates greeting their superiors when they see Yi Ziwei and the rest. In just 3 days, Medicine King Group took over all the shares of Park Jing-tai's family. The head of the family that Yin Dongyuan belonged to also led Yin Dongyuan and the senior management of Ledian Film and Entertainment Group to apologize to Li Huiyan. Yin Dongyuan was in tears as he slapped himself in the face, saying that he had failed to recognize Mount Tai. Ledian Film and Television was tailor-made for Li Huiyan. They were preparing a 300 million won Sino-Korean joint venture female lead movie. Of course, Li Huiyan is the female lead, and Li Huiyan heard the male lead is South Korea's #1 male star, and the director is a famous director from Hollywood. Li Huiyan's career has entered a new chapter, and she said she will try her best to persuade Master Kong to give Ledian Film and Entertainment Group a chance. But even so, Yin Dongyuan didn't dare to stay in South Korea anymore. He left for France and went to an art school to study film. Actually, it was to avoid Jiang Tian. After that, South Korea's Ministry of Health and Welfare announced that they will shelve TKM's application for World Heritage Sites and admit that traditional Chinese medicine is the origin of TKM. From now on, TKM will be known as Traditional Chinese Medicine. Chapter 394. Thus, Pak Yong-tae publicly apologized to China's TCM Association and the Medicine King Corporation for his actions. He was also sentenced to 10 years in prison for patent infringement. On the day of his imprisonment, Park Jing-tae announced in an interview that he would not practice medicine for the rest of his life. After he was released from prison, he would focus on promoting TCM to make up for his crimes. In the Park Jing-tae family, the culprit, Park Yun-jing, was ostracized. She was stripped of all her inheritance rights and was even chased out of the family. Everyone kicks a man who is down, and the Park Jing-tae family hated Park Yun-jing. In fact, they had plagiarized Chinese medicine and Medicine King Group's products and made a fortune in secret. However, she was too high-profile and arrogant. She insisted on applying for Koryo traditional Chinese medicine and squeezing traditional Chinese medicine. The most terrible thing was that she recklessly offended Jiang Taichu, the backer of Lord Tan Daoist Palace. This pushed Pak Jing-tae's family to the point of no return. At the same time, the video of Park Yun-jing and Charles went viral on the internet. After all, this video was full of emotions and emotions. It was very clear and was very enjoyable to watch. It was way better than the 2008 Hong Kong video by photographer Chen. During this period of time, the first sentence on the internet was, "Do you have that for G video?" Pu Yunjing, who had lost her status, wealth, and reputation in one night, whose soul had been torn to shreds by despair, humiliation, resentment, and regret, drank 10 bottles of bamboo charcoal soju that night. In the Daewoo Pharmaceutical Company's headquarters office building, she jumped and fell into a pool of bloody pulp, ending her sad and miserable life. But the South Korean government kept a low profile on this matter, and no media was allowed to report it. They could only say that Park Yunjing died in a car accident. This shocking news was only secretly circulated within a small circle of the upper class. The battle between TCM and TKM also came to an end with Park Yunjing's suicide. Park Jingtai family, the leader of TKM, lost everything. Their assets were seized, their founder was imprisoned, and their CEO committed suicide. Even the Hyundai Industries, Daehan Housing, and many other companies and financial groups that had helped them in the past were affected to varying degrees. This incident had a far-reaching impact, and some financial observers claimed that this incident might even change the industrial structure of South Korea. As for Jiang Tian, he did not care about any of this. In his eyes, whether it was Pu Jingtai, Pu Yunjing, or Zheng Chuha, they were all just ants that he could casually slap to death. He refused the visits of many high-ranking officials, tycoons, and family heads. Instead, he stayed at the Tanjun Taoist Palace to guide Li Jinju's cultivation. He also taught her a set of sword art, the Taishan 13 swords. Now, she was as powerful as the transcendent state. Unknowingly, Hua Xia's National Day arrived. On this day, Jiang Tian, who had finished teaching, smiled and said, "Yes, stepping onto Japanese soil on Hua Xia's National Day is very memorable. Master, are you going to fight the Japanese experts?" Li Jinju was eager to give it a try. "Yeah, what? Do you want to go too?" Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and asked. "Master raised my cultivation and taught me sword techniques. However, Master also said that the best way to raise one's cultivation is to fight and kill. I think I should try it out." Li Jinju's face was full of pleading as she said in a delicate voice, "What you said makes sense. Let's go." Jiang Tian waved his hand and the little black flying sword appeared in front of the two of them. It was not the first time Li Jinju had flown on a flying sword. Since she had cultivated, she was full of excitement and anticipation. She was not afraid at all. She went out and said to her subordinates, "I'm going out to play for a while. Don't look for me." Then, she stepped onto Jiang Tian's flying sword. The flying sword cut through the air and headed south. Li Jinju asked in confusion, "Master, why are we going south? Shouldn't we be going east? Don't you know that every time Hua Xia's National Day, a group of patriots will go there to cause trouble?" Jiang Tian said with a smile. In his previous life, although Jiang Tian was a good-for-nothing, he was actually a nationalistic youth. However, at that time, his ability was limited and he could only stop there. To put it bluntly, he was the keyboard warrior that everyone despised on the internet. However, things were different in this life. With Jiang Tian's ability, he could easily sweep away a few Japanese patrol ships. Bang! The flying sword broke through the speed of sound, leaving a trail of white turbulence in its wake. It was so fast that it was breathtaking. Li Jinju hugged Jiang Tian's waist tightly. Her eyes were filled with intoxication. The vast sea stretched as far as the eye could see. A bright moon rose from the sea. A speedboat that was 15 meters long and 3 meters wide sailed out of Ningbo and headed east. On the speedboat, more than a dozen hot-blooded youths were waving red flags. They were in high spirits. This team was formed by a group of patriotic netizens. The members on the boat were very complicated. There were workers, university students, farmers, white-collar workers, boxing coaches, and so on. They came from all over the motherland and spoke with different accents. However, because of the same goal, they were as close as brothers. This speedboat was a high-speed motorboat. If it was equipped with naval cannons and torpedoes, It could be used as a surveillance ship. Of course, the surveillance ship would not support such a disorganized and undisciplined patriotic activity. There was no Hua Xia Sea surveillance painted on the hull. It was purely a private recreational speedboat. But for the sake of convenience, they still spray-painted the words "Family Photo." This motorboat was provided by a young man named Duan Haiyang. This guy was a rich second generation. He was the owner of the hot-blooded Save China Forum. His family was in the seafood business and he was also the organizer of this activity. Duan Haiyang was wearing the outfit of Captain Jack of the Pirates of the Caribbean that he bought online. He even imitated Captain Jack's smoky makeup. With a cigarette in his mouth, he looked straight ahead with a deep gaze as he steered the rudder. He looked majestic and insufferably arrogant. In the cabin, there were more than a dozen patriots gathered together, singing revolutionary songs and talking and laughing. Zhao Xiao was holding a whetstone and sharpening a sharp dagger. His eyes were deep and his face was expressionless. He was so cool that no one had friends. He was muscular and was a boxing coach. He said that he could defeat a special forces soldier. No one knew if it was true or not. He was the military force of this activity. There was another girl named Hao Zi. She was 22 years old and a student of Yenjing University. She was in the history department and looked pure and beautiful. She was the contact person and was also in charge of everyone's logistics. Netizens gathered from all over the country and she was in charge of contacting them. There was another boy who led everyone to sing. His name was Emogu. He was a student of Beijing Normal University's Music Education College. He was 1.8 meters tall and handsome. He had participated in the Super Voice talent show. Although he was stopped in the top 50 in the country and did not win the championship, he had captured a lot of fans. He was a famous figure in Beijing Normal University and the entire Yenjing University circle. There was also a guy named Wang Guqing. However, this guy was not dull at all. He was very funny and was the comedian of this activity. Seeing Zhao Xiao's action, Wang Guqing smiled and said, "Zhao Xiao, why are you sharpening your knife? It's scary." Zhao Xiao said indifferently with a cigarette in his mouth, "Do you think I'm joking? If I meet those Japanese, I will definitely kill one or two of them." "Damn, you're serious?" Wang Guqing smiled and said, "Under normal circumstances, we will circle around the island and go home. If you want to be more arrogant, we will land on the island, plant the flag, announce our sovereignty, record a video and go home." Zhao Xiao rolled up his sleeves and showed the scars on his arm. He snorted and said, "Do you think I'm joking? In the past, there have always been Japanese maritime securities patrol boats. If they really dare to come, I will kill one or two of them." As he said that, he glanced at the silent girl opposite him. This girl was not a netizen on their forum. In the morning, they were preparing the boat by the sea. When she saw them, she said that she wanted to follow. It could be said that everyone was shocked when they saw this girl. The girl was tall, snow-white, and picturesque. It could be said that she was not inferior to any of the popular Hua Xia female celebrities. However, when she got on the boat, she was in a daze. Wang Guqing asked her about her background. Emogu also asked everyone to make her sing. Hao Zi gave her a box of mineral water, but she did not eat or drink. From the beginning to the end, she did not say a word and was in a daze. However, Zhao Xiao realized that this girl was definitely an expert. When she boarded the boat, she jumped 10 meters and the boat did not shake at all. She was a kindred spirit. Zhao Xiao knew that this girl's background was definitely not ordinary. Since ancient times, beauties loved heroes. He said those words to attract the girl's attention. Unfortunately, the girl leaned against the wall of the cabin and closed her eyes to rest. She did not even lift her eyelids. He still could not attract her attention. No wonder she was called the Ice Beauty by everyone. Tang Su was a bank employee. He smiled and said, "Although you say that, it's better not to hurt anyone if you can. If you hurt anyone, I don't know how the Hua Xia officials will deal with it. As long as you don't kill anyone, it's not a problem." Wang Guqing showed his unique sense of humor and said with a smile, "This time, it can be said that we have the best National Day holiday plan." Chapter 395. Boom. Everyone burst into laughter. Wang Guiqing, it's a waste of your talent if you don't go to Dune Society. Tang Su smiled. Wang Guiqing chuckled. I'm not wrong. Traveling between 2 countries and 3 places without spending a single cent is natural and pollution-free. It's also very meaningful. Don't you think so? As he spoke, he glanced at the Ice Beauty beside him. The Ice Beauty opened her eyes this time, but she was playing with her phone. She seemed to be paying attention to the news of TKM's application. Wang Guiqing thought to himself, I can tell that she's a patriotic youth, but why doesn't she get along well with everyone? I think that protecting fishing is a way to arouse the people's patriotism. Most importantly, we have to bring this spirit of protecting fishing and patriotism into all aspects of our lives. Emogu said with a solemn expression, we have to boycott Japanese goods and reduce tourism to Japan. The government can restrict the export of special resources, especially rare earth. He then talked about the relationship between rare earth resources, Japanese electric vehicles, and energy-saving home appliances. His data was detailed and logical. He explained the profound in simple terms and even reached the strategic level. As expected of a top student from Beijing Normal University. As he spoke, Hao Zi and the other female university students nodded their heads and looked at him with admiration. They almost took out their notebooks and wrote down his golden words word by word. But unfortunately, the Ice Beauty on the other side still didn't say a word, concentrating on swiping her phone. Wang Guiqing looked at the girl's phone and smiled. That doctor called Jiang Tian on the news is pretty amazing. He defeated the entire TKM in one fell swoop. He raised the prestige of our country. Emogu smiled proudly and said in disdain, what's so great about TKM? Actually, Japan's TCM is also copied from Huaxia. If this divine Dr. Jiang has the guts, why doesn't he go to Japan? He doesn't dare to and is afraid of being beaten to death. He's still a coward. Emogu did not know what Tang Linglong was looking at. He was just casually talking, but he did not expect to touch Tang Linglong's reverse scale. Tang Linglong suddenly raised her eyebrows and looked at him coldly. You dare to say anything bad about Jiang Tian? Do you want to die? Do you think you're so great just because you took a trip to the Diaoyu Islands? How would you know what he's capable of? Emoji's face instantly turned red. He also knew that Tang Linglong's words made sense, but he felt a little embarrassed after being rebuked in public. Before he could say anything, Hao Zi smiled and said, actually, what Emogu said makes sense. The news said that divine Dr. Jiang's medical skills were godly, and he should be able to suppress the Chinese doctors. Why didn't he go to Japan? Other than being scared, is there any other explanation? Tang Linglong snorted and said, he's afraid of Japan? You guys are so funny. With his ability, no one can stop him from killing the Emperor of Japan. At this point, she did not want to say anything else. Summer insects could not talk about ice. Besides, her master did not allow her to talk about him in public. Tang Linglong was very popular with this group of men. They all surrounded her, but correspondingly, the 3 girls who came to fish together were treated coldly. Normally, with such courage, knowledge, and magnanimity, a girl who was willing to fish was like a national treasure panda. She should be popular. However, when Tang Linglong joined them, it was a completely different matter. You're exaggerating. Is he not afraid of the Japanese self-defense forces? Is he a god? Hao Zi looked at Tang Linglong as if she was an idiot and sneered disdainfully. Previously, when Fang Zhanhua, a finance professor in Hong Kong, attacked the Medicine King Group, he said on TV that this divine Dr. Jiang Tian is a playboy. I checked at night, and it's true. He has played with many famous stars, and his private life is very messy. I heard that he even has an illegitimate child. You're talking nonsense. Tang Linglong was so angry that her face turned green. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and she clenched her fists tightly. She wanted to slap her. Do you want to hit someone? What kind of person are you? If you have the guts, go and fight with the Japanese. The girl stood up and pointed at Tang Linglong. Tang Linglong was filled with hatred. She also understood that these people were not evil people, nor were they mortal enemies. It was just that their mouths were cheap for a moment. Was she really going to kill them? Tang Linglong was very annoyed by the girl's words. She walked out of the cabin, leaned against the railing, and stood on the deck to get some fresh air. Master, why are you with that Southern Korean witch? Why don't you understand Linglong's heart? If you need it, why don't you come to me? The image of Jiang Tian and Li Jinju together appeared in her mind again. Tang Linglong felt like her heart was being stabbed by a knife, and she felt dizzy. I'm such a lunatic. In your heart, I'll always be your disciple. You even hit me for your woman. What am I to you? She clutched her chest with a pained expression. Crystal clear tears flowed out of her eyes again. She suppressed her sobs and almost burst into tears. Fine, I'll die in the sea this time. Living like this is not fun at all. Master, if you know, you won't even shed a tear for me. At this time, Duan Haiyang's excited voice suddenly came from the ship. Attention, fellow countrymen and women. We're about 15 nautical miles away from the Diaoyu Islands. Everyone, prepare to land on the islands and fight with the Japanese. Heh, we have a lot of friends. They're all Huaxia fishing boats. They're probably here to fish as well. Everyone was very excited. They walked out of their cabins and stood on the deck to watch. Tang Linglong raised her head and looked. There were 3 fishing boats in front of them. They all had Huaxia's flag and were brightly lit. At this time, the wind on the sea was getting stronger and stronger. It had already set off 3-meter-high waves. However, Family Blessing was still moving forward. It accelerated and brushed past the 3 Huaxia fishing boats. Someone on Huaxia's fishing boat used a loudspeaker and shouted, "Hey, friends from Huaxia, don't go any further. Go back quickly. There's a patrol boat from the Japanese Maritime Security Department in front of us. They just drove us out. Go back, Myas. This time, we're going to fight with the Japanese." Zhao Xiao said proudly with a cigarette in his mouth. Emoji's eyes were burning with the flames of battle. He recited a poem with a solemn face. I hope the cold star doesn't notice. I sacrifice my blood in the yellow sands. I'll wear golden armor after 100 battles. I won't return until I've defeated Lu Lan. Hao Zi and the other girls held hands. They were nervous and excited. They looked at him with admiration. Wang Guqing smiled and said, "We have to get to the island. Otherwise, our most economical National Day trip will be ruined." Zhang Haiyang, who was at the helm, had a cigarette in his mouth. He laughed boldly and said, "You fishing boats want to protest, but you're afraid of causing international disputes. You're only hanging around 15 nautical miles away. That's like scratching an itch through a boot." At this time, everyone saw that 3 kilometers in front of them, a few Japanese patrol boats were driving away Huaxia's 2 surveillance boats and 3 fishing boats. It was like a cat playing with a mouse. Soon, one of Huaxia's fishing boats was knocked over. A few frogmen from the Japanese patrol boats jumped into the water and scooped up the fishermen. However, the Japanese surveillance boats continued to ram into the other 2 Huaxia's fishing boats. They almost capsized several times. As for Huaxia's surveillance boats, they were too small compared to the other party. They could not be of much use even if they wanted to protect them. They were completely useless. For a moment, everyone felt a little scared. Fuck, they're so ruthless. They even sank Huaxia's fishing boats. Maybe the fishermen will drown. Are these the surveillance boats of the Japanese Maritime Security Agency? Only Tang Linglong's eyes were burning with fighting spirit. Emoji's face was ashen. He quickly put on a life jacket. The others also followed suit. The Japanese patrol boats were more than 10 meters above the sea. What did 10 meters mean? It was as high as a 6-story building. If you looked at photos and videos, it would not be much. However, if you took a small speedboat and looked up, you would feel shocked. It was as if you were facing a huge monster. It was like a small insect looking up at a lion or a tiger. It felt especially powerless and small. A sense of fear emerged involuntarily. Why don't we stop? Wang Guqing suppressed the fear in his heart and said with a smile, "If we just stand here, they'll probably take us to Japan for a vacation. But if we crash into them, we might really sink. That's not a joke." Zhang Haiyang was still hesitating. He had not decided whether to move forward or not. Tang Linglong rushed into the cockpit. With a flick of her arm, she pushed Zhang Haiyang to the side. She began to steer the boat with a frosty expression. She sped up and rammed into one of the huge Japanese patrol boats. Chapter 396. Fuck, you don't want to live anymore. Zhang Haiyang was so scared that his face turned pale. I don't want to live anymore, but I won't let you die with me. Tang Linglong glanced at him coldly. That murderous aura scared Zhang Haiyang, who originally wanted to fight for the rudder, and he subconsciously took a step back. The family fortune was super fast. While everyone was hesitating and arguing, in about 10 minutes, they were only 200 to 300 meters away from the Japanese patrol ship. For a moment, the Chinese and Japanese ships all noticed the motorized speedboat that appeared out of nowhere. The people on the boats were extremely surprised. Swish, swish, swish. Dozens of searchlights shone on the family fortune together, making it the focus of the entire sea. A Huaxia surveillance ship came from the rear. Everyone saw an electronic screen on the surveillance ship, and big red words were scrolling back and forth. The Diaoyu Islands and its affiliated islands have been Huaxia's territory since ancient times. Please stop your infringing activities. A majestic voice came through the loudspeaker of Huaxia's surveillance ship. Huaxia's ships in front, attention. Huaxia's ships in front, attention. You have entered a sensitive sea area. For your safety and the safety of your ship, to avoid unnecessary disputes, please turn back immediately. Please turn back immediately. Tang Linglong's face showed a hint of mockery. Suddenly, she came out of the cabin door, picked up a gasoline can, and threw it 50 meters ahead of her. Then she picked up another gasoline can and jumped out. Her body shot out like a whistling arrow and accurately stepped on the gasoline can that was floating on the sea. The gasoline can only sank slightly. As she threw the gasoline can in her hand, she shot out again and stepped on the second gasoline can. Then she jumped again. Her body was as strong as a dragon as she climbed steadily and landed on the deck of the Japanese patrol ship. What's wrong? Can't think straight and want to commit suicide? A girl complained resentfully. Although there were searchlights, the lights were concentrated on the family fortune, and the other places were dark. Especially from their angle, they couldn't see Tang Linglong's movements clearly and thought that she had committed suicide. What's the point of committing suicide here? You can't be considered a martyr. Someone said viciously. The others had different expressions. Some were regretful, some were shocked, some were puzzled, and some were mocking. Damn, a martial arts expert. However, Zhao Zhao's expression changed drastically, his eyes filled with horror. After all, he was trained and stood at a better angle. He saw how Tang Linglong boarded the ship in that terrifying way. The PLH patrol ship Tang Linglong boarded, Daesan, belonged to the Mizuho class. It carried 2 helicopters, had a long bow and a flat deck structure, and was equipped with an OIC command post to strengthen the information and command function. It has a range of 8,500 nautical miles and a crew of 130 people. The captain, Yamazaki No, graduated from the Maritime Self-Defense Force Cadre School with excellent results. He had 10 years of experience in maritime patrol and had carried out many defense and interception missions in the waters around the Diaoyu Islands. He was familiar with everything. At this moment, he laughed sinisterly and said, "Oh, Chinese pigs, they're all idiots. The government didn't come to fight for the Diaoyu Islands, but they came empty-handed. Do they want to die? Well, let's fulfill their wish. Destroy all their ships." Throughout the history of the Diaoyu Islands disputes, the Japanese side had always maintained the bottom line of strictly prohibiting casualties. Under normal circumstances, they would destroy the fishing boats of the protectors, then fish them out of the sea and control them. They would then negotiate with the Huaxia officials. Otherwise, it would not be as simple as condemnation and protest from the Huaxia side. It might cause serious international disputes. Previously, they had already destroyed a fishing boat of Huaxia. The Daesan released an all-weather lifeboat. More than a dozen frogmen went into the water and fished out more than a dozen Huaxia protectors. Although the crew of the Japanese patrol ship did not dare to kill the Chinese, they could not avoid humiliation. Kneel! On the deck, a Japanese crew member pointed at the captured Huaxia protectors and shouted loudly, "Kneel my ass! What are you shouting for, you bunch of Japanese?" The two sides had fought many times over the years. The protectors also knew the Japanese's bottom line. They did not dare to kill. After all, it was not the first time that the two sides had caused trouble on the Diaoyu Islands. However, they did not expect that the Japanese crew would not dare to kill them, but they did not feel any pressure to beat and humiliate them. Bakayaro! Kill them! Many of the Japanese crew members swarmed forward and hit them in the face and back with the butts of their guns. After knocking them to the ground, they still did not vent their anger. They kicked them again and again, causing many of the Huaxia protectors to roll on the ground and scream in pain. The Japanese crew members took off their pants and peed on the Huaxia protectors as they beat them up. They even laughed proudly. "We've already taken control of your freedom. Let's see if your country's surveillance ship dares to protect you after being beaten up by us." The sounds of mockery, ridicule, berating, and humiliation were endless. In the eyes of the Japanese crew, these protectors were like lambs to be toyed with. On Huaxia's surveillance ship No. 2038, many law enforcement officers had already seen this scene with their binoculars. They could not help but feel angry. Japanese Marine Patrol ship, this is the Huaxia Marine Surveillance ship. We are cruising in the waters under Huaxia's jurisdiction. Your ship has entered our waters. Your ship must abide by our laws and regulations and immediately release our citizens on board. We solemnly protest and strongly condemn your evil deeds. Instructor Zhang picked up the microphone and shouted in a stern voice. The Chinese broadcast was first, then it was Japanese, and finally it was in English. "Ha, did you see that? It's always solemnly protest and strong condemnation. Can't you change it up a little? Cowardly Huaxia Marine Surveillance ship, you're all cowards. You can't take off the label of the sick man of East Asia. Our ship is right here. If you have the guts, bring the cannon fodder over." The Japanese crew members on the Great Mountain burst into laughter. They ignored the warning and fought even harder. "What should we do? We can't catch up." On Huaxia's surveillance ship number 2038, the law enforcement officers were so angry that their eyes turned red. In fact, they had been trying to approach and stop the Great Mountain together with the other surveillance ships. However, Huaxia's surveillance ship speed was only 18 knots, while the other party's speed was above 25 knots. It was impossible to catch up and stop them. The other party fearlessly played hide-and-seek in the vast waters, letting them watch as they beat up the Chinese, but there was nothing they could do. "It's impossible to open fire. Shaoli, immediately contact the higher-ups and ask for instructions on what we should do. Also, a Huaxia girl just fell into the sea. Frogmen, quickly go down and salvage her. Don't let the Japanese take her away again." Instructor Zhang looked at the situation on the deck of the Great Mountain with his binoculars and said with a solemn face, "How did she get up there? Isn't she walking right into a trap?" At this moment, he let out a cry of surprise. He saw a figure appear on the deck of the Great Mountain like a ghost. This girl was Tang Linglong. Then, a scene that shocked Instructor Zhang even more happened. As soon as she got on the deck, she rushed toward the Japanese crew members like a gust of wind. As she ran, Tang Linglong suddenly jumped high. Bang, 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 bang. She kicked 6 Japanese people in the chest at lightning speed. Crack, crack. The crisp sound of bones breaking was heard. Splash, splash. Screams and sounds of people falling into the water were mixed together. The 6 Japanese people were kicked to death by Tang Linglong and fell into the sea. Many of the Japanese crew members were shocked when they saw this. Before they could raise their guns, Tang Linglong's vigorous figure had already rushed into the sky. After the 6 Japanese people who were kicked by Tang Linglong fell into the sea, a large area of the sea was immediately stained with their blood. When the Japanese saw this, They knew that the person who came was definitely not an ordinary person, not even an ordinary soldier. She was a terrifying expert. They immediately panicked and fired at the dark shadow. Bang, 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 bang. Gunshots were heard everywhere. The great mountain was 30 meters tall and had a draft of 9 meters. The distance between the deck and the highest point of the ship was less than 20 meters. With a leap, Tang Linglong reached a height of more than 20 meters. She looked down from above and grabbed 2 handfuls of steel nails from the backpack on her back. Then, as her body spun, she threw them out as if they were free. Although Tang Linglong wanted to kill to vent her anger, she also knew that she was a soldier of Huaxia. Her identity was sensitive and must not be leaked. She could not use the weapons provided by the Huaxia military because it could easily cause a military conflict if she passed the ballistic test. Therefore, she wore a black mask and used a cold weapon. Bush, bush, bush. More than 20 steel nails shot out at a speed no slower than bullets. She was already at the early stage of chi refining. How could the Japanese who did not know martial arts dodge her attacks? In an instant, more than 10 people were hit. 5 of them had their foreheads pierced through. They were sent flying a few meters away and died instantly. Some of them even had their heads blown off. Some of them were shot in the heart. They struggled for a while before they died. Some of them were shot in the thighs and arms. All of them dropped their guns and rolled on the ground, screaming in pain. Blood instantly stained the deck red. Fuck. Heroine. She's so cool. She jumped more than 10 meters high. Is she still human? Awesome. I can hold my head up high. We should kill those Japanese and let them know that Huaxia's territory is not that easy to invade. The rescued Chinese looked at Tang Linglong with gratitude and admiration as if they had seen a goddess. Tang Linglong glanced at them and said calmly, "Stop watching the show. Quickly put on your life jackets and jump into the sea. Swim toward Huaxia's surveillance ship. We'll go now. Take care, heroine." Many Huaxia people quickly jumped into the sea and swam toward Huaxia's surveillance ship. The situation was different now. There was bloodshed. Originally, it was just a bluff to show off their country's prestige. Now, it had turned into a life-and-death battle. They were just ordinary people who did not even know how to shoot. Although they were hot-blooded, they understood that they could not help at all if they stayed. Chapter 397. Baka. This Huaxia woman knows how to use witchcraft. No, she should be a martial artist from Huaxia. She's definitely not an ordinary person. Open fire. Rat-a-tat-tat. All the Japanese crew members on the Great Mountain rushed to the deck and fired at Tang Linglong when they heard the news. Moreover, the other 6 patrol boats did not care about chasing away Huaxia's fishing boats. They closed in on the Great Mountain from all directions and fired at Tang Linglong. Bastards! Tang Linglong slaughtered them like she was chopping vegetables. The pain and frustration in her heart were relieved a lot. She felt extremely happy and satisfied. She pulled out a soft sword from her waist and used the mystifying phantom steps that Jiang Tian taught her. Her slender body refracted on the deck and left behind afterimages. She dodged all the incoming bullets and charged into the crowd of Japanese. At this time, Tang Linglong's eyes were as sharp as a knife. Her face was as cold as ice. Her murderous aura soared to the sky. She used all the Taishan 13 swords. Her attacks were ruthless and decisive. It could be said that she was massacring everyone. Her Taishan 13 swords was incomparably sharp. Like chopping vegetables, the East Asian people were beheaded one after another. Sometimes she would use the Howran body-tempering arts punches and kicks. With each punch and kick, the East Asian people would definitely die. In just a few minutes, Tang Linglong had killed more than 80 people. The deck was already stained with blood. The sea around the Great Mountain was like boiling dumplings. More than 20 bodies floated in the sea. The scene was extremely bloody. "Instructor Zhang, I think I heard gunshots. It's not good. They won't kill the Chinese, right?" The Marine surveillance officer called Xiao Li said with a pale face. After a chase, Marine surveillance ship 2038 was now less than 300 meters away from the Great Mountain. He could clearly hear the gunshots. Then it's serious. Let's open fire. The other Marine surveillance officers also frowned and looked solemn. If the other party started to kill the patriotic citizens of Huaxia, it would be tantamount to breaking the bottom line of Huaxia. A conflict would break out at any time. This was a major event. Who wouldn't be nervous? If he didn't handle it properly, he would be punished, demoted, or even be held criminally responsible. Instructor Zhang's face was pale as he looked at the situation on the deck through his binoculars. Then, his expression became even stranger. He grinned and said in a trembling voice, "It's not them who are slaughtering Huaxia citizens. It's their Japanese surveillance ship that is being slaughtered by Huaxia citizens?" What? That's impossible. The Coast Guards were stunned. Instructor Zhang, are you kidding me? The Huaxia citizens who had been captured were all powerless commoners. Furthermore, they had been captured with their bare hands. Instructor Zhang, who was politically sensitive, knew that the situation was serious this time. Dozens of people from the Japanese Maritime Security Agency had already died. This time, it was probably the Japanese's turn to raise a stern protest and strong condemnation. However, this matter definitely did not involve the Huaxia maritime surveillance and the government. In fact, both sides had satellites monitoring this area of the sea. From the beginning to the end, Huaxia's naval surveillance team did not fire a single shot. If you were killed, who could you blame? Instructor Zhang could not give any explanation. Today's incident would definitely be listed as top secret after this. He picked up the microphone and ordered sternly, "Everyone listen up. From now on, no one is allowed to fire a single shot. All Huaxia surveillance ships are to retreat 15 nautical miles from the Diaoyu Islands. Do not approach the Japanese ships." "Fuck you, I actually got shot." Tang Linglong, who was in the middle of the battle, suddenly trembled. She gritted her teeth and cursed angrily. Her shoulder was stained with blood. Although she was already at the chi refinement stage and could block bullets, however, the enemy's 6 patrol ships surrounded the Great Mountain so tightly that not even a drop of water could escape. Hundreds of guns were fired at the same time. Her chi refinement was not at the level where she could withstand continuous shots. However, Tang Linglong had already killed more than 100 crew members on the Great Mountain. She quickly rushed into the cabin, bandaged her wounds, and rushed all the way to the cockpit. How is this possible? Yamazaki Ino had just experienced the most terrifying scene in his life. His face was pale and his legs were trembling. He saw from the surveillance camera that the terrifying woman was pushing her way through. His comrades fell one after another. None of them could withstand a single blow. The scariest thing was that the woman walked as if she was flying. Her body was like a ghost. She was invulnerable and could withstand bullets. She was like Wonder Woman from Marvel Comics. The entire Great Mountain had turned into a living hell. Blood and broken limbs were everywhere. Bakayaro, this must be the legendary ancient martial artist from Huaxia. Yamazaki Ino suddenly understood. His expression changed drastically. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and considered if he should abandon the ship and run away. When he was studying at the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force Cadre School, he had a good relationship with a famous scholar. This professor was a researcher at the Defense Research Institute, the most famous official think tank in Japan. He was directly connected to the higher-ups of the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force and had access to a lot of confidential information. Once, the two of them were drinking in an izakaya. The professor was drunk and told him some little-known truths. It turned out that the ninjas, onmyojis, and kendo masters in Japan were all real. They were not just legends and empty talk. And Huaxia had martial arts figures. According to legend, Huaxia martial artists could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. They were invulnerable to swords and spears. They could walk on water and hurt people from a distance. When Yamazaki Ino saw this, he immediately connected Tang Linglong with the legendary Huaxia martial artists. Yamazaki Ino had not made a decision yet. After all, abandoning the ship and running away was also a capital offense. He would have to go to court. He was also very hesitant. At this moment, There was a burst of gunshots outside the door. The gunshots only rang out for 5 seconds before it fell into a terrifying silence. Is that Hua Xia person dead or? A few of the higher-ups on the ship looked at each other. Their faces were ashen and they were bewildered. Bang! The cabin door, which was made of stainless steel and was 3 centimeters thick, was kicked away from the outside. The cabin door directly smashed 2 crew members into meat paste and broke the glass window of the cockpit. It flew 10 meters away and fell into the sea with the door. Yamazaki Ino, who was so scared that his face was ashen, simply pulled out his pistol and pointed it at the figure that appeared at the door. He pulled the trigger to the end and the bullets poured towards the person as if they were free. He was shocked to see that the woman covered in blood seemed to be blooming with a white light, and all the bullets fell to the ground. Do you want to die? Tang Linglong frowned and raised her hand to shoot out a steel nail. With a bang, Yamazaki Ino's wrist was nailed to the operating table. He screamed miserably. The other 2 first officers and the like were just about to shoot. Tang Linglong waved her hand and a ball of white light exploded beside the 2 of them. The 2 of them let out a muffled groan and blood spurted out of their 7 orifices at the same time. They fell to the ground on their backs. Devil! She must be a devil! Seeing this scene, Yamazaki Ino was so scared that his soul left his body. He grimaced in pain and his whole body trembled like a sieve. These short 10 minutes were the most painful and terrifying scene that Yamazaki Ino had experienced in his life. He was almost scared out of his wits. He was an iron-blooded soldier who was not afraid of death. He was also an extreme militarist and had a deformed national self-esteem. He had never admitted or accepted the defeat of World War II. He had never agreed with or accepted the growing strength of Hua Xia. In his eyes, Hua Xia was just a bunch of weak lambs, a nest of insignificant ants. If it wasn't for the United States dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which turned the tide of the war, Hua Xia would have long been Japan's territory. What he admired most were the Japanese war criminals of World War II. Every year, he would go to the national shrine to worship the war criminals. Every time, he was full of vigor as if he had gained great courage. He hoped that one day he could set foot on the land of Hua Xia like the martyrs and sages, burning, killing and looting, and recreating the glory of the greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. But now, he had met a transcendent existence like Tang Linglong. He was really afraid. Hua Xia martial artists were too terrifying. I'll be in charge of piloting. You're in charge of firing at the other 6 Japanese warships. Tang Linglong shook off the blood on the soft sword. Her cold eyes did not contain a trace of emotion, like an ice goddess. This, I will be executed by the military court. Yamazaki Ino spent a lot of effort to pull out the iron nail. He pinched his blood-stained palm and said pitifully, "If you don't do it, I will execute you right now." Tang Linglong began to skillfully control the Yamaishi. Don't kill me, I'll fire." Yamazaki Ino was so scared that his soul left his body. His whole body trembled as he rushed into the weapon cockpit and operated it. "If I can't hit you, I'll kill you." Tang Linglong wiped the blood on her face, her eyes extremely cold. At this time, on the Japanese patrol ship Aojima, 10 nautical miles away from the Yamaishi, many Japanese were anxiously discussing. "Everyone, how is it? Has that Hua Xia woman been killed?" The captain of the ship, Okita Amato, frowned and asked with a grave expression. She should have been shot, but before she entered the cabin, she had not lost the ability to move. A subordinate reported, "Now that we have lost contact with the Yamaishi, we are worried that the Yamaishi has lost control." Another subordinate's face was grave and ashen. What they encountered today was the biggest setback in their maritime patrol mission in many years, and it was also an unacceptable setback. On Hua Xia's side, the maritime surveillance team did not fire a single shot. Just one person, and a woman at that, killed all the crew members of the Yamaishi and took over their warship. If news of this were to spread, it would shock the entire Japanese military and political circle, and there might even be an anti-Chinese protest. It would be regarded as a great humiliation, and they would all be subject to military punishment. At this time, all the officials on the Japanese patrol ship felt their heads swell. Originally, this was a daily maritime patrol activity, and everyone was very relaxed. After driving away Hua Xia's fishing ship, they would return to the izakaya, drink a few cups of sake, eat a few skewers of oden, and sleep with a woman in kabukicho. Wouldn't that be great? Who would have thought that such an extreme situation would occur? Hundreds of people died, and a warship was taken away. It was really unexpected. Everyone, what should we do? The captain of Aojima Amato looked around with a grave expression, feeling that his heart was about to jump out of his throat. Chapter 398. He could not guess what the enemy's next move was, nor did he know their intentions, so he could not make up his mind. Now that Hua Xia had taken over the Taishan, if she opened fire, the other warships would be in trouble. If she did not open fire and just drove the warship away, many military and industrial secrets would be leaked, which would be a huge loss to Japan. But if the Japanese opened fire, they would sink the Taishan. A warship like this was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, which was also a huge loss. I think that woman won't dare to open fire and drive the warship back to Hua Xia. Hua Xia has never dared to do this. A subordinate said. Maybe they won't dare to open fire, but at least they have the courage to drive the warship back to Hua Xia's territorial waters. Okita Kyoto said angrily. Have you forgotten about the collision between Hua Xia and the U.S. fighter jet in Hua Xia's Hainan in 2001? Hua Xia would rather sacrifice a J-8 fighter jet to crash the U.S. Navy fighter jet and force it to stop. Then the U.S. fighter jet was dismembered and studied by Hua Xia's military experts. As a result, Hua Xia's anti-submarine and anti-reconnaissance technology improved by leaps and bounds, breaking a 10-year technical problem. Don't underestimate Hua Xia. If they dare to do this to the U.S., they will dare to do something even more violent to the Japanese. Then we will also force the Taishan to stop. In short, we can't let them drive the Taishan back to Hua Xia. A subordinate wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, Yes, that's it. Contact the other patrol ships immediately. Okita Kyoto ordered with a frown. But at this moment, suddenly, bang bang bang. A series of dense and muffled sounds of cannons rang out. On the Taishan, two twin 100mm naval cannons suddenly opened fire. The shells connected into a steel line and shot towards Ao Dao. It was too sudden, and Ao Dao was not equipped with close-range defense cannons, only naval cannons and high-pressure water cannons, so it was defenseless. After all, their original mission was to drive fishing boats, and they were not a top-tier warship. She dared to open fire. She must be crazy. Those were Okita Kyoto's last words. The next moment he was blasted into pieces and died a violent death. The cannons on the Great Mountain fired 120 rounds per minute, instantly riddling the Ao Dao with holes. Ao Island did not sink immediately. The hull was huge and the wound was small. It was a slow process for it to sink completely into the water. However, there were already several large holes in the hull of the ship. The cockpit and the ship's weapons cockpit were all destroyed. There was basically no way for them to fight back. After that, the Great Mountain did not give the remaining 5 Japanese patrol ships any time to react. It immediately opened fire and destroyed another 2 patrol ships in the blink of an eye. This ice beauty is simply too valiant. On the family blessing, many patriots who were fishing for their country were dumbfounded. Before this, they didn't realize that Tang Linglong had boarded the Great Mountain and thought that she had fallen into the water. However, when they heard the concentrated gunshots and looked through their binoculars, they realized how terrifying the ice beauty was. They were momentarily stunned. Then, Tang Linglong took control of the Great Mountain and sank 3 Japanese patrol ships in an instant. They were even more dumbfounded. It's ridiculous that we still want to covet such a miraculous woman. Zhao Xiao shook his head and smiled bitterly. Sigh, she's completely different from us. Mo Gu sighed self-deprecatingly. These fishermen had been bragging all the way, as if they could flatten the East Ocean, subdue the rivers and mountains, and save Mr. Hatu. But when they really met the patrol ships of the East Ocean, they immediately cowered. For example, the fishing protectors on the sunken fishing ships were captured by the frogmen and brought to the Japanese surveillance ships. They were rubbed against each other on the deck, rubbed against each other, and rubbed against each other again and again. What about Tang Linglong? One person, one sword, and one steel nail bag, she killed hundreds of crew members on the Great Mountain. She even stole the Great Mountain and sank 3 Japanese patrol ships. Compared to her feat, Gu felt that their fishing protectors were just playing house. It was not even worth mentioning. Such courage, such skills. No wonder she doesn't care about us. If I were her, I wouldn't care about us either. Wang Guqing exclaimed in amazement. He was ashamed of his inferiority. Hao Zi and the other girls were speechless. They were dumbfounded, and there was only respect and shock left on their faces. Fire! All of you open fire. Sink the Great Mountain. Finally, the other 3 Japanese patrol ships reacted. The Hua Xia on the Great Mountain was determined to perish together with the enemy. If they did not attack now, were they going to wait for the enemy to attack them? Moreover, they were not afraid anymore. Even if they wanted to settle the score, the Japanese would not be afraid. After all, the Great Mountain was a Japanese warship. If they attacked their own country's patrol ship, Hua Xia would not be able to find fault with them. For a moment, the other 3 patrol ships surrounded the Great Mountain and fired wildly. Torpedoes, cannons, and thousands of cannons were fired at the same time. Neither side had close-range cannons. They were like heavyweight boxers who only attacked and did not defend. It was a competition of who could hit faster and harder, who could take a beating, and who would sink first. The Great Mountain had the upper hand. However, the other 3 Japanese patrol ships had the advantage in numbers. In an instant, the Great Mountain was forced into a passive position. Bang! 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 After being hit by dozens of cannonballs in a row, the Great Mountain's weapon cockpit was shattered. Yamazaki No was also killed. Then, the cockpit was also hit by a cannonball. Tang Linglong was covered in blood and flew out. It's over. That Hua Xia girl is injured. On Hua Xia's surveillance ship 2038, Instructor Zhang stood up abruptly and threw down his binoculars. His expression was grave. What should we do? We can't let the Japanese kill her, right? That's right, Instructor Zhang. No matter what, she's still a descendant of the Yellow Emperor and a patriot. We can't let her bleed and cry, right? That's right. She's so patriotic, but she was buried in the sea and fed to the fishes. We can't just stand by and watch. Many of the maritime police officers looked pained and indignant. They clenched their fists tightly and suggested at the same time. When a general is outside, he won't obey military orders. Instructor Zhang's eyes were filled with tears. His blood was ignited by Tang Linglong's actions. He roared loudly, "All surveillance ships, move forward at full speed and protect the Great Mountain. We can't let this girl die." The higher-ups' orders forbade firing, but there was only one way to protect the girl. That was to use Hua Xia's surveillance ships as meat shields and guards for the Great Mountain. They had to protect the girl and let her get off the ship and board Hua Xia's ship. However, Instructor Zhang also knew that it was very troublesome now. They were now a few nautical miles away from the Japanese patrol ships. Their speed was only about 10 knots. It would take them more than 10 to 20 minutes to reach their destination at full speed. But after a few minutes, Instructor Zhang's expression changed drastically. He frowned and said in disbelief, "The Great Mountain is moving again. It's colliding with the Crimson Stone. What does she want to do?" Tang Linglong was covered in wounds from the explosion. She looked like a bloody gourd. Her right calf was even fractured. She felt dizzy and her ears were ringing. She couldn't hear anything. She had used her protective wind when the cannonball hit. Otherwise, she would have died long ago. "Master, am I going to die?" Tang Linglong felt dizzy. She had lost too much blood and felt extremely weak. Her whole body was burning with pain. "It's really good. It seems that when my body hurts, my heart doesn't hurt so much." Tang Linglong wiped the blood and tears on her face and limped to her feet. She went to the control panel, steered the rudder, and headed toward the nearest crimson stone. It quickly crashed over. "Master, I hope I can meet you sooner in the next life." Tang Linglong endured the severe pain. She gritted her teeth and large drops of tears oozed out of her beautiful eyes. Her hands quickly steered the rudder. The speed of the great mountain increased steadily and soon reached 25 knots. It moved forward at full speed and rampaged forward. 1 knot was 1 nautical mile per hour. The great mountain was now only 3 nautical miles away from the Crimson Stone. It would only take a few minutes for the great mountain to collide with the Crimson Stone. She wants to crash into it. Instructor Zhang on the surveillance ship 2038 was also dumbfounded when he saw this scene. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. No, it's too late. The Crimson Stone and other warships are firing continuously. The great mountain is about to sink. Someone sighed in a trembling voice. "Hero, women are not inferior to men. We are really ashamed." Many Coast Guards couldn't stop trembling. They took off their hats and saluted the ship where Tang Linglong was. Their eyes were slightly red, and some even had tears streaming down their faces. "We joined the army to protect our country. We have long put aside life and death. Today's matter will only result in death." In the past, Deng Shichang of the Beiyang Navy was in the middle of the Japanese Sea in the Jiawu Kingdom. Amidst the dazzling clouds, the weather suddenly changed and he single-handedly defeated the entire navy. Later, under the siege of the Japanese warships, his Ziyuan was injured in many places and the hull of the ship tilted. Deng Shichang said to all the officers and men on the ship, "We joined the army to protect our country. We have long put aside life and death. Today's matter will only result in death." He resolutely steered the ship at full speed to crash into the flagship of the Japanese 1st Guerrilla Fleet, Yoshino. He was determined to perish together with the enemy. The Japanese warship's officers and men were shocked when they saw this. They desperately fled and fired torpedoes at the Ziyuan warship. After Deng Shichang fell into the sea, his followers tried to save him with a lifebuoy, but he refused and said, "I am determined to kill the enemy and serve my country. Today I will die in the sea. Why would I want to live?" His beloved dog, Taiyang, swam to his side and bit his arm to save him. Deng Shichang swore to live and die with the warship. He resolutely pushed the dog's head into the water and sank into the waves with the rest of the 250 officers and men on the ship. This scene made them think of Deng Shichang's heroic deeds in the past. Many of the Huaxia Coast Guards straightened their backs. Their eyes were filled with shock, respect, admiration, and pain as they looked at the great mountain in the distance. Their posture was perfect. The blood in their chests was completely ignited and boiling. She actually crashed into the warship. Is this ice beauty crazy? At this moment, everyone on the family blessing was dumbfounded as they looked at the scene through their binoculars. She's courting death. Emogu sighed. His face was filled with shock and his eyes were red. The great mountain was no longer firing. If they crashed into the warship, wouldn't they be suppressed by the enemy? Not to mention that it was very likely that they would be sunk before they crashed into the warship. Even if they really crashed into the warship, the two warships would be finished together. There was no possibility of survival. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.